right, the May 2nd Board of Education meeting is now called to order. And please rise for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and live streamed on the internet. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. Item 2.03 is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
So are there any board additions or corrections? All those in favor? Okay, motion passes. Item 2.04 is established agenda order, and the agenda stands as printed. Item 2.05 is special board recognitions. And Ms. Egan will take the lead on that for us.
Good morning. I am Sally Egan, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, and I am joined this morning by Ryan Vogelin, Director of Student Services, and Karen Siska, who is the Director of Nursing for the county's Department of Health's Bureau of School Health and Support. We are pleased to be here this morning for this morning's recognition. Before we begin, we would like to ask members of the board and Dr. Arlotto to come forward. Members of the board and Dr. Arlotto, National School Nurse Day will take place a week from today, so it is fitting this morning that we take a few minutes to recognize the incredible partnership between our school system and the Department of Health that provides nurses and nursing assistants to care for more than 82,000 students we serve every day. As you know, we, along with our students and parents, have grown to rely on and trust the expertise that schools health staff bring every single day. School nurses and health assistants are about far more than ensuring medical doses are administered and Band-Aids are applied. They are literally critical lifelines for many students who simply could not attend school without the services they provide. We are fortunate today to have with us two outstanding representatives of this amazing cadre of professionals, and I'd like to ask Karen to tell you a little bit about them.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, everyone. Let me first say that this is a credible collaboration, and I am encouraged and inspired every day by the work everyone does for our children in our county. Now, let me tell you about two amazing ladies. Kate has been with School Health Services, Kate Kramer, for 12 years. 9 of those years have been at Annapolis High School. She is a strong child advocate who works in partnership with parents, families, students, school staff, and community healthcare providers to promote the emotional, mental, social, and physical health needs of a very diverse population of students in her school. Kate is a case manager with numerous students with acute and chronic medical conditions. On any given day, she's making numerous phone calls to community agencies to facilitate meeting health, housing, and nutritional needs, besides many other for these students. She works very closely with family and healthcare providers of students with complex medical conditions. Kate has recognized the communication challenges with Spanish-speaking families when relaying health information, and she uses on a daily basis the school's bilingual facilitator and anyone else who can help her relay this health information. Kate has, and let me give you 2 examples of kids that she's worked with. Kate has a student who was uninsured who needed a liver transplant, and Kate was able to get them a liver transplant. There are many students in this school who are pregnant, who don't have access to prenatal care, and Kate is on the phone with them every day getting them hooked up to services so they can get it and they can have healthy babies when they're born. And as you know, let me start this way. Now, our next worker is Chris Mosley. Chris serves in the Anne Arundel County Public School community as a health assistant at Northeast High School. She has been employed with us for over 17 years, and she has served in a health assistant in elementary, middle, and high schools. She is an exemplary health assistant, which is a true team player whose action supports school health mission every day by performing her assigned duties efficiently while providing outstanding level of care. Chris has the ability to communicate effectively with students of all ages, staff members, and family. She has a way of making everyone feel valued and seen. Her actions truly support AACPS's motto, all means all. In addition to working for us, she also works with and serves the Anne Arundel County Public School community as being the junior varsity cheerleading coach at North County High School.
Good morning. Across our school system, we talk every day about the importance of relationships, and Kate and Chris not only believe in the power of relationships, but they show it in everything that they do every day. They have incredible bonds with students and their parents and guardians, and adeptly handle both routine and emergency situations with grace and skill. As Kate and Chris come forward today, please join us in thanking them and the hundreds of colleagues in the Bureau of School Health they represent for the incredible work they do on behalf of our students every day.
Come on, ladies. If you guys can hold on. Very good. And then everybody else get in nice and tight.
Jump
Thank you. What are you guys looking to play? Take a few of them. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I just wanted to give an added shout out to all of our school nurses. They do amazing things. They were very patient with my daughter in elementary school, where she went in often and said, "My head hurts because the wind blew my hair." And so the nurses, we gave her a nice present at the end of the year to the nurse for being so, so good with her. So we are very grateful for all their hard work. So item 2.06 is Educator of the Month, Mr. Reinhardt.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Today, the Board of Education recognizes an educator in our school system who deliberates on the curriculum and her instructional delivery of the courses each year for the purpose of challenging what continues to work well for students, what new methods did or did not meet students' expectations, and to initiate the following year's winning formula. The curriculum: Honors Culinary Arts. The teacher: Chef Pam Klink of the Center of Applied Technology South. Chef Klink shares with students and administrators. Oh, there's so much more. Chef Klink shares with students and administrators what has been successful and unsuccessful in the past, so that there is clarity at every level on the why behind each presentation or assignment. You might want to say it. It's long. Pam is just as attentive to the personality and spirit of individual students as she is to the class as a group. She utilizes her insight of learning styles to ensure student comprehension and skill at the industry level, as well as how the culinary education experience translates into other areas. In the words of one of her colleagues, it is so inspiring to work beside a teacher that sincerely utilizes her experience and knowledge to launch students toward their goals and dreams. In the past, students who won medals and awards at Skills USA competitions returned to share their winnings with their instructor. On a visit last year from a health department inspector, I know them well, Chef Klink turned the entire visit into an impromptu health and safety lesson for her students. The experience reinforced the real world what, why, and how of keeping operational kitchens ready to pass health department inspections. Pam's integrity is best described by her priorities. Her students' first attitude is the foundation of her unwavering professionalism, both in and out of the classroom. She leads her students by matching exciting situations with a calm demeanor. With compassion and clarity, she elevates students to follow her path with a customer-first attitude when learning in a service-oriented environment. She knows how to create confident future professionals by demonstrating the power of positivity. Chef Klink epitomizes the career technology education ideal of preparing students to be skilled employees and ultimately future colleagues and business partners with Cat South. Over the past 5 years, she has increased the student enrollment in the Honors Culinary Program by 119%. She continually works to establish business partnerships with local restaurants in support of her goal to provide opportunities for her students to network and apply classroom skills to real-life experiences. Chef Klink, your consistent dedication is evidenced by the value you place in your students earning the ServSafe Food Protection Manager certification, a very valuable credential. Due to your efforts and dedication, the Honors Culinary Arts Program is now the American Culinary Foundation Education Federation certified. You prepare students for the industry by teaching sanitation, cost control, nutrition, and preparation of meals. Your leadership is commendable, and the Board of Education is honored to award you the distinction of Educator of the Month for May 2018. And if you were not aware, Chef Klink was also one of our finalists for the 2018 Anne Arundel County Public Schools Teacher of the Year. So what was the trick? How'd they get you here?
They said we were talking about the ServSafe certification.
What we did? And who'd you bring with you today?
I brought Allison Pastine, who's our school counselor, and Joe Rose, principal, and Julia Gaines, who is my partner in crime at Cat South, and Lou Carnucci, who is my department chair, and then Jared Goldstein is an alumni from my program, but now in an externship, and then my husband Rob, who clicked, so I didn't know it was coming.
Well, here's a handsome dinner bell.
Thank you.
And a lovely certificate suitable for framing.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Item 2.07 is Employee of the Month. Ms. Cole.
Today we honor an employee in our school system who wears many hats, performing each school day with a go-with-the-flow attitude, regardless of the specific hat she is wearing at the time and regardless of her workload. Rebecca Harriman, head secretary at Richard Henry Lee Elementary School, knows it all. In the office, she's in charge of managing payroll, the substitute system, and classroom inventory. She also has multiple tasks in planning and budgeting for field trips, including collecting and counting money monitoring chaperones, background checks, and scheduling buses. She is constantly aiding parents, teachers, and students in any way she can. Becky's workload is endless. She knows her job inside and out, as well as the work of all the staff members in the building. If she doesn't know the answer to a question, she knows how to get it. There has never been a task that Becky hasn't completed. Becky is passionate about the well-being of students at Richard Henry Lee. When she has a free moment, she is happily assisting teachers and or students in a learning lab or a classroom. She is an expert at helping parents and guardians with personal issues in a caring and professional manner. Most importantly, she enjoys helping families in need and takes pride in assisting needy families with school supplies, hats, and gloves. She takes it upon herself to help students by collecting gifts during the holiday season and distributing them to families who needed them most. She is a true team player and has a heart of gold. Becky's professionalism is what stands out the most. There has never been a day she has been late to work or not present. She handles herself with poise and caring demeanor when dealing with all members of Richard Henry Lee family. Becky Harriman, you are truly the heart and soul of your school. You take on the workload of numerous people, and you keep calm throughout all the storms. Your school would not operate the same without you, and you are truly deserving of this honor. So on behalf of the Board of Education, the teachers, staff, and students of Anne Arundel County Public School, we congratulate you on being selected of Employee of the Month for May 2018. Can you please come forward?
How did they trick you in coming here today?
Talk about the revitalization for Richard Henry.
And I saw a huge crowd come in, so can you tell me who came to support you today?
Lots of them. I have my husband, Steve. I have my ex-co-worker, Sherry. Our first grade teacher, Kristen Brace. Our PTA, Judy and Missy. I have my sister-in-law, Debbie. My son, David. My daughter, Kristen. Just all of them. I have my principal, Lisa Colonel, Amanda Salvarine, two of my co-workers at Richard Henry Lee.
Well, I would love to congratulate you and thank you for all your hard work. Here is your certificate.
Thank you.
And the bell.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Miss Nally.
I just want to welcome Lisa Colonel, principal, and formerly worked with me at Davidsonville Elementary, and I'm very proud of you.
It's I have to say that may be the largest crowd we've ever have come. So everybody stick around because we're going to break for pictures, and we're going to somehow get you all in one picture out front. So, all right. Item 2.08 is Volunteer of the Month. Today we are excited to celebrate a Volunteer of the Month who is not only an outstanding volunteer, he is a visionary, a trailblazer who has worked tirelessly with parents, school leaders, and community partners to establish a supportive school climate at Monarch Global Academy. As one of the founding parents of the school, Mr. Scott Collick has gone above and beyond the call of a volunteer from the onset of his relationship with Monarch Global. Before he began his tenure as PTA president, he played an integral role in developing the association at Monarch, helping the PTA to begin with over 350 members before the school year opened in 2014. According to Assistant Principal Emily Abel, Mr. Collick has led the PTA in coordinating several fundraising activities that have raised over $250,000 and helped to improve science labs, purchase PE equipment, fund buses for field trips, and provide students with increased access to music throughout the school. Ms. Abel also applauded Mr. Collick's visible support of the school as she noticed that his warm and approachable presence in the building and at school events is what sets him apart from the rest. In addition to being a welcome presence within the school, Mr. Collick has also been a dependable community liaison for Monarch Global Academy. Ms. Shirley Ng, a fellow parent and PTA member, shared that Mr. Colick is exemplary in his ability to champion the school with the community. Ms. Ng went on to recall several stories about how Mr. Colick saw a need amongst Monarch Global students, families, or school leaders and used his power of persuasion and community relationships to provide assistance. In one particular instance, Mr. Colick not only used his community connections to gather school supplies for teachers in need, but he also helped deliver these supplies to classrooms throughout the school. Principal Donna O'Shea captures Mr. Colick's dedication to Monarch Global in a few simple words. There is nothing he won't do to enable our staff and students to do their best. This dedication to excellence has been present in Mr. Colick's endeavors to create and foster family and community partnerships, and it continues to be present in his drive to ensure that every student and staff member at Monarch Global Academy feels supported by the parents and families in the PTA and beyond. Mr. Colick, your commitment to Monarch Global Academy is comparable to none. We thank you for mobilizing your talents and skills in support of our students, teachers, and staff. I want to also point out that Mr. Colick was named last week as the PTA President of the Year for the county, and I will also say that he is my neighbor and friend, and so I'm very proud of him. Would you please come forward? So how did they get you here this morning?
Principal Shea asked me to come here to support the charter schools and the funding today. So I came. I had no idea.
And so who's here with you?
That's my wife, Meredith, carrying the balloons, and that's the reason why I became a PTA president, and my son, Nathan, to help support him through his schooling. So.
And
oh, I'm sorry, Principal Shea. I'm just overwhelmed right now. And Miss Abel from the school as well. So I don't know what to say.
so, well, you're having a pretty good month.
I'm having a pretty good month.
Here, so, well, we have this beautiful souffle for framing. There you go, and a bell so that you can ring this and get everyone's attention, because I know your voice is very soft and you would never get their attention for anything. But so, there, get a smile.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2.09 is school and community highlights. Ms. Korbelak.
I see some students from South River High School in the audience, and I just wanted to mention that Mrs. Hummer and I had a chance to come out your way and have a chat with the International Space Station, which was totally awesome, and I confess I canceled my own class that day so I could participate in space camp. I did. But thanks for hosting. It was fantastic.
Ms. Cole.
I was able to attend the SMOB selections, and even though it's sad to go, Josie Urea, she won, so she will be here next year, and I'm very excited to see her win. I've known her for a year, so I can say that she's probably one of the most qualified people I've ever seen for this position, so I'm excited for her.
Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to share and also say thank you to the countless volunteers that help organize scholarships for scholars. Mrs. Hummer and I had the honor of attending the event, when was that, last night or 2 nights ago?
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago, Monday night, and there were about 30 students who were awarded a large sum of scholarships, and I'll say it. We were just amazed at how awesome those students were as they were talking about, some of the inventions that they have, and some students integrating high-level statistics with high-level math and high-level economics. And I just sat there and said, I was lucky I got 2 gold stars for attendance. These students were awesome, and as I shared on Monday night, I think our future is very, very bright. So thank you.
I had the opportunity over the past couple of weeks to attend some of the wonderful arts opportunities that we have. I saw Willy Wonka at Brooklyn Park Middle School. Everyone should have the chance to be an Oompa Loompa sometime in their lives. And then I heard the Glen Burnie Jazz Band play at one of our libraries. And this Friday night at Meade High School, they're having a special steel drum concert, so anyone that can make it out to that. So there's just amazing variety of arts things going on all over our county. Last weekend? The dates blur together. Several of us had the opportunity to attend Arlington Echo's 50th anniversary. If you have not been to Arlington Echo, it is a gem of the school system where we provide our outdoor education, and it was a gorgeous day, and it was great to get out there and see all the things they're doing. And I think that Arlington Echo has more volunteers than any other part of our school system because people love to be there working on hand, and so that was a great opportunity to be out there. And then several of us were able to attend the Teacher of the Year banquet the other night, which is a great night where we just celebrate our fabulous teachers who are also impressive. And I will give a shout out to Heather Carnahan from Monarch Global Academy, who's named the 2018 Teacher of the Year. So, and hold on, where'd my, yes. Item 2.10 is the CAC report.
Good morning, Board. A couple of things. We have our elections on May 14th, which is 2 weeks from, or a week from Monday. We'll be electing a chair, vice chair, and secretary. We'll also have our list of cluster positions that are open out to you guys, hopefully within the next week or so. Pretty close on that. We have the CAC rep that will be participating in the Superintendent Security Council. So thank you for organizing that. We're excited to have that. And then we look forward to giving our annual report on June 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2.11 is the CCAC report. CCAC is the Special Education Citizens Advisory Council.
Good morning, Dr. Arlotto, members of the board. I'm Leanne Carmona. I'm the chair of the CCAC. We've had a pretty busy year this year, so we just wanted to share some of the highlights. We started off in the fall with our annual special education resource fair. We had over 40 different community groups and Anne Arundel County staff and departments on hand to answer questions and give parents information about the special education, all aspects of special education in our county. That was a great event. We had over 100 families. We've had some exciting presentations this year. We had Dr. Ross Green come present on collaborative and proactive solutions to behavior challenges. He came to Annapolis High School. We had over 180 community members attend. We did this in collaboration with the Department of Special Education, where he came in an evening, and then professional staff development was also offered the following day. And then in April, we had Rose Blucher come speak about the Twice Exceptional Child. Again, we offered this to parents and community members in the evening, and staff was able to have professional development the next day. We do have one more presentation this year. Next week, we have Megan McGowan. She is from the Genesee School, and she will be speaking on dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. And a lot of our parents and staff are really interested in knowing more about these specific learning disabilities. Last May, we launched our 3rd annual CCAC survey. And we're going to launch our 4th one next week. It's really important for parents to be able to give that direct feedback on how they feel the special education services are working for their family. Last year, we received over 1,100 responses, which is a pretty good response rate considering people don't like to take surveys. And our survey comes right after the MSDE survey, so it's a little tricky in getting the word out on that. And we continue to maintain our CCAC website. We respond to inquiries from community members and parents. We have 700 people on our email list. We have 243 Facebook subscribers. We continue to hold active representation on PIAC, CAC, and we also have a position on the School Board Appointment Commission. A couple of concerns we just wanted to share were continued concern about staffing for all students. And it's really important that when decisions are made at the IEP table that they're based off of the unique needs of children and not off of staffing limitations. And finally, we have continued concern about the bus length, travel time for some of our students. At this time, the longest non-public bus ride is 2 hours and 50 minutes, and the longest bus ride to a public school in Anne Arundel County is 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that means we do have some students spending more than 5 hours a day on a bus, and that continues to be a concern. We do understand the constraints and with lack of equipment and such, but we're hoping that some creative solutions can bring these travel times down for students. And thank you for letting me share our CCAC report.
Thank you for all y'all do. The CCAC, for those who aren't aware, if you have a child with any kind of special needs, they are a fabulous resource, and the speakers they brought in are excellent. And I encourage anybody that's interested in learning more about dyslexia, or dysgraphia, or dyscalculia to come to the speaker they're having next week. It'll be Tuesday here in the boardroom at 7 o'clock. And that is, dyslexia in particular is getting a lot of press recently, and people are wanting to learn more about it, and this would be an excellent opportunity to do that. But thank y'all for all you do. Item 2.12 is the PTA report. Ms. Holler.
Dr. Arlotto, esteemed board members, this is my last board meeting, and I'm actually sad because I really have enjoyed seeing you guys once a month or around. I will still come. I actually very much enjoy coming because I do learn so much about what's going on in the school system, and I also get to see the wonderful volunteer awards and things like that. I do tear up. I really do. I love that. Again, we encourage that, awarding the wonderful work our parents and volunteers do. So thank you for that. So on to PTA matters. We would like to introduce our new board. Our president will be Vanessa Rivera. Our vice president is Rutanya Quarles Miles, which I think you might know. She was actually volunteer the month of January. Secretary will be Lisa Shore. Our treasurer is Jihad Menta, and our reflection chair would be Lindsay Currens. They will be taking over at the beginning of June, and we'll start all school-related matters with PTA in August. I would like to thank everybody who did apply, and if you're still interested in being part of the board, to please contact us at info@AnneArundelCountyPTA.org, as we would definitely like to have you as part of our board. Our last meeting of the year will be held next week, May 18th at 5:30 in this building, in this room. It will be our last meeting because in June we decided not to have one as we already had elections, and we want to give people a break since June is a great month for graduations and all sorts of band events. I know I have many. And I would like to again thank everyone for all the support you have given me this year, as I did come in for a year term, but it was a wonderful year term, and I really do thank all the support and all the people I've met. So thank you again, and I hope I see you around. I might be in the back smiling and laughing and crying. Thank you again.
Thank you for serving for this past year. You did a great job. So I do have something to insert at this time. The Maryland's Open Meeting Act is a statute that requires that many state and local public bodies to hold their meetings in public, to give the public adequate notice of these meetings, and to allow the public to inspect meeting minutes. The Act also permits public bodies to discuss some topics confidentially with proper documentation. The Act's central goals are to increase the public's faith in government, ensure the accountability of government to the public, and enhance the public's ability to participate effectively in our democracy. Members of public bodies are supposed to be familiar with the Act's requirements, and recent legislation has increased opportunities for training. Under this law, there is a 3-member Open Meetings Compliance Board, which issues advisory opinions in response to written complaints about alleged violations of the Act. Although the Compliance Board is not part of the Office of the Attorney General, citizens can find a lot of excellent and detailed information about the law on the Attorney General's website. This includes copies of the Compliance Board's opinions. While the opinions of the Compliance Board are only advisory and has no authority to impose penalties, they offer guidance to help public officials improve their open meetings practice. Along these lines, a complaint was filed with the Compliance Board in late January, alleging that our board had fallen short of the Act's procedural requirements with respect to meeting minutes, closed meetings, and meeting notices. Board counsel responded on our behalf and explained our meeting practices and procedures. The Compliance Board issued an opinion on April 27, 2018, and by law we are required to promptly announce the outcome to the public and offer a summary of the opinion. The Compliance Board rejected most of the complaint. They found that our written minutes comply with the Act, that our closed session discussions have been lawful, and that the Board's meeting notices now comply with the Act. The Compliance Board also commended AACPS for providing the public with videotapes of its meetings. The Compliance Board did note one minor violation and recommend 2 improvements. Specifically, they found that when we revised our website to make information more accessible to the public, some wording was inadvertently dropped from those notices, with the result that the public was not fully informed that it could attend meetings at which the board's only business was voting to close the session. As the opinion notes, we acknowledge that error and since corrected it. In addition, the Compliance Board suggested that the discussion of even routine administrative matters pertaining to our policy committee should be discussed in open session rather than in a session closed under the administration function exclusion in order to avoid the risk of a more substantive policy topic getting discussed outside of the public meeting. Finally, the opinion noted that the board was using an outdated form for our closing statements and suggested we adopt the new sample form on the Open Meetings Act homepage, which has been formatted to better guide presiding officers on making the necessary disclosures. We have done so. As I mentioned earlier, the full opinion can be found on the AG's website. It's listed as 12 OMCB Opinion 33, 2018. Please know that this board, the superintendent, and the staff take our open meetings obligations seriously. We are proud of our procedures and practices, knowing that our public notices, web-based content, and video services support an open, inviting, and accessible forum for governing the school system. At the same time, we will keep improving, updating our forums and other technical details, participating in training, and listening to your suggestions. Thank you. And now we will take a break to have some pictures taken in the lobby with our different people of the month. Okay, the meeting is called back in session. It's now the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to speak on an item not on today's agenda may offer testimony during this public comment portion of the meeting. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes each and may not allocate their time to others. A tone will sound when time has expired. The board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing this meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question-and-answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking, and handouts should be given to the board assistant. John Mazer, Peggy Williams, Barbara Algier, and Danielle Franz, and India Oaks.
Excuse me. Hi, board. This is Josh Mazer. I've come back to talk about the HPV vaccine marketing program that's currently going on in state schools. First, I want to thank Dr. Arlotto, because I know you got the letter that created the program to secretly market HPV vaccine to 11 and 12-year-olds in our state school classrooms. And I know that you did not disseminate that information in our county, in our school system. I appreciate it. But it is going on all over the state. What we have going on is the Department of Health has accepted almost $100 million since 2012 to engage in a program to target 11 and 12-year-olds in state schoolrooms. What they do is they count the number of 11 and 12-year-olds, divide them up by gender and district, and they send a letter to each superintendent saying, please use this trusted information to market the HPV vaccine. In terms of where the money is coming from, Dr. Pete Doshi, who's chair of pharmacovigilance at University of Maryland and also the assistant editor of the British Medical Journal, writes that the CDC front groups that are providing this money, what they're doing is they're providing one-sided propaganda. They're not giving objective information about this HPV shot. There is no informed consent going on in terms of this. And you could look at this website, www.hpvistd.com. The other development that's happened since the last time I presented is that the U.S. Court of Federal Claims has found that a Maryland resident, Christina Tarsal of Sparks, Maryland, Baltimore County, the decision was handed down in September 2017 and just made public recently. The U.S. Court of Federal Claims finds that Christina Tarsal died at age 21 from her third HPV shot. The first one caused her arrhythmia, the first arrhythmia she had in her life documented. The second one caused another arrhythmia, and the third one killed her. And what the U.S. Court of Federal Claims says is that the preponderance of evidence shows that the HPV shot caused her death. And that's available also on this website. You can read the court case. We also have Vigibase, which is a vaccine safety monitoring system. We have something called VAERS. In Japan, this was a recommended vaccine up until 2013. They had 2,000 serious adverse effects. They called public hearings. They invited stakeholders on both sides of the table, people who are pro the shot and against the shot. And at the end of the day, the vaccine is still off the market. It's not recommended in Japan to this moment. And no one's talking about a public crisis of undervaccinated people in Japan. So this program relies on inaccurate, outdated, and incomplete information. It's deliberately deceptive and deliberately secretive. And in my personal opinion, I just want to put a little editorial comment here. When I send my 12, 13-year-old daughter to school, the last thing I expect to happen is for her to be targeted for sale of a pharma product by the people we entrust with her health. The Department of Health should not be doing this. They need to be held accountable for this program. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mazer. Next, Peggy Williams. Pull that mic in front. You can sit. You just pull that. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Peggy Williams. I'm a scientist in the environmental field and the mother of 2 boys who attend middle school. My sons are fully vaccinated. Both had the typical allergies, eczema, asthma, and chronic ear infections, which we all take to be normal these days. By the time one son was 4, he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Fast forward, after hearing talk about the HPV vaccine, I started doing some research into vaccine history and immune response, and realized that the CDC's bloated vaccine schedule likely contributed to my children's immune dysregulation conditions. I believe that vaccine safety studies should be done by an independent body not tied to the industry. This is not the case. Parents should then have the right to consider each vaccine on its own merit for each individual child, because one-size-fits-all medicine, as illustrated by the death of Maryland's Chris Tarsal, is deadly. According to the U.S. Court of Federal Claims, Chris Tarsal's death was a direct result of arrhythmia due to the HPV vaccine. This week, when I read the letter from the Maryland Department of Health to the superintendents of schools, I was shocked and angry at its inaccuracies and coercive language, and it was clear to me that this was a threat to parents' informed consent and an underhanded plan to, yet again, expand the CDC's vaccination schedule and directly target our children for marketing for an HPV vaccine on unproven claims that it prevents cancer and other cervical and other cancers. This letter was written to be deceptive and easily could be misinterpreted by busy parents, leading them to think that it is a school-mandated vaccine. Too many of us are on autopilot. Wake up and please see that the CDC has an incestuous relationship with the vaccine manufacturers and that there is a potential unethical relationship between the Maryland Department of Health and the pharmaceutical industry, which is now actively marketing their product, the HPV vaccine, in our public schools directly to our children, and this practice must stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Hi, I'm Barbara Allgeier. I'm the solo parent of a son, a 4th grader at Hillsmere. Like many parents, I know the importance of a good education, and I sent my child to Montessori school until he was 5 years old. I also know the importance of being part of a community, teaching the sense of belonging and living in the same community where you go to school, being able to walk or ride a bus and being able to play with your friends outside of school. We were living in the city of Annapolis, so I searched and bought a house in Hillsmere in the hopes that my son could go to a good public education and be part of a local community with family friends. While we were able to walk to school, our past experience at Hillsmere had been less than desirable and had negative impact on my son and myself. We were personally had 2 very challenging years under the previous several administrations, which caused us to look for alternatives. We presented the Monarch as a hope for a nurturing PYP education with a learning environment and a great administration. I don't think I was alone in the search for a better public option, as 80 children left Hillsmere to go to Monarch. That's more than 20% of the population. Unfortunately, due to startup issues along with challenges at Monarch, and more importantly, my concern for my ability to get my child to and from school safely, caused me to be that this was no longer a workable solution for me. I heard that many parents were very pleased with the new administration at Hillsmere and were pulling together to make Hillsmere the nurturing environment, the local community school that it once was and that we all desire. 10 children came back from Monarch, and 4 of these, including my son, were in 4th grade. My decision to come back to Hillsmere was largely influenced by the possibility of having one particular teacher that teaches in 5th grade at Hillsmere. She's an incredible teacher and has been the most positive influence on my child throughout his education thus far. I believe that I am speaking for the majority of the parents that are currently in the 4th grade class at Hillsmere. This 5th grade teacher has taught our children reading and other things in 2nd and 3rd grade, and now she is being told that she's losing her job along with my son's current 4th grade teacher. What message is this sending our kids? These kids need to know and believe that they do matter. These kids have gone through 3 administrations in 4 years and now will be losing a nurturing teacher who they love and who they had hoped would prepare them and provide them a positive experience in leaving elementary to go to middle school. This inconsistency that these kids have had during their experience I asked the board to reevaluate the data and consider bringing back the 5th grade teacher and to keep the 3 5th grade classes at Hillsmere to enable our teachers to succeed. I feel the board is aware that class size in one school is not always the same as class size in another. Please help us to show the powers to be that the impact that cutting this teacher will have on our children in 4th grade, as well as the bigger impact that it will have on the Hillsmere community. I believe if you truly look in the situation, you will agree that this type of instability these children have experienced over the past 4 years is disruptive and harmful to their development. I ask that you reconsider your decision. I ask that you fully support the current administration that you've put in place as it is working. We need to make a positive choice and support the Hillsmere School. Please give the teachers the tools that she needs to provide the stability and the quality education our children need. This will increase her success.
Thank you, Ms. Agar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize for going over.
No problem.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Franz, mother of 2 students at Hillsmere Elementary. I come here today to ask the board to reconsider the reduction of 2 teachers at our school next year. Hillsmere has, for the past few years, been fighting toward a healthy teacher-student ratio. It helped this past year that a large number of left to attend the new Monarch Academy in Annapolis. However, now we are paying the price for the reduction and potentially losing 2 teachers. My daughter is a current kindergartner and will be directly affected in 1st grade next year. I, like many, shouldn't have to leave my home school to get her the education she deserves. I ask that you explore this reduction with our current principal and PTA board to hear our concerns and see what can be done to give our school the support it needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lydia Oaks, mother of a 2nd grader at Hillsmere Elementary and PTA president, and apologies in advance if I go over by 28 seconds. I look forward to the day when I can attend one of these meetings with success stories to share, but unfortunately I feel like this is deja vu from last May, in terms of keeping teachers at Hillsmere. That said, I do want to acknowledge the strong steps you have taken requesting funding for over 150 new teachers. And I know we all are a bit frustrated, to say the least, with the budget released by the county executive yesterday, which many of us on this side of the table plan to fight in other venues. I also understand that decisions are being made based on the current budget and projected enrollment numbers, even though both of which are likely to change in the coming months. Yet, at the end of the day, the superintendent and his staff have the final say in how many teachers go where, and so I am asking that additional consideration be given to the situation at Hillsmere, and not cut 2 teachers from our staff. Hillsmere has been in flux for several years now, including 3 principals in the last 4 years, and losing 3 teachers last year. Our new principal has been great in terms of starting the path back to some stabilization. Yet things are far from perfect at Hillsmere. Even with the reduction in students, the number of students in need of food over the weekends tripled, and we still face issues with bullying and properly educating students from other countries. And as students have come back during the year, classes have expanded, including my son's class that had 4 additional kids since January. And although this is entirely subjective through the lens of a parent, I cannot overlook the fact that my son's grades in math and science, which he excels in, went down a full letter grade in a quarter since the class expanded. If the 2 teachers are cut, our 5th grade will have 2 classrooms of at least 30 students each. And finally, the fact that we will be losing 2 of our best teachers is a huge factor in this. Parents are just as worried about the scenario that we have already put 2 teachers on notice. They find new positions, and then in August numbers show that Hillsmere can keep 1, and we have to hire a new teacher, which circles back to my original point that Hillsmere needs consistency, and so the removal of a teacher that students have counted on for years, only to have a new teacher replace her in the fall, is simply unacceptable. And that is why I ask that you take action now, and reconsidering the current cut of 2 teachers to Hillsmere, and make sure our children have the level of education they not only deserve, but have a right to.
Thank you, Ms. Oakes. Always good to see you. All right. Our next batch is, I understand you're all together, and so I'm going to call you all at one time to come up here. So we have Morgan Brookman, Grace McWaters, Ashley Rogers, David Rowe, Madeline Falk, Taylor Jones, Joy Goodman, Caroline Davison, and Tori Davis.
Good morning, all. My name is Morgan Brookman, and I am the president of chorus from South River High School. Many of us are involved in music and view music as an important part of our identity. Some of us have been in music programs since elementary school, and some of us have only just begun. Yet we collectively agree that music is our language, our outlet, and our passion. Many of the students here today intend to apply to and attend performing arts colleges and universities to pursue musical career paths. We hope to have more opportunities to utilize our musicality as a way of helping others in and beyond our own community. And we hope to expand the effect of music departments in our county to reach students everywhere with their own passions. The events that have led us here today begin with the loss of our previous choral director, Miss Lister, who had to resign due to insufficient pay as a result of her position being cut to part-time. This meant that the students were introduced to an entirely new director this year, Dr. Kathleen Orr, who was forced to rebuild the choral department in Miss Lister's absence. We received news last week that her position is to be cut down even further, from a 0.5 position to a 0.1 position, forcing her to resign from the school as well. If it weren't for our principal, Mr. Myers, the position of our choral director would have been given to another teacher yet again for the 3rd year in a row. Performance-based classes, specifically chorus, have a different expectation for the teachers than normal academic-based classes. Students and teachers must form a bond stronger than those that result from normal classroom lessons. Teaching someone how to sing with passion and love connects both the instructor and the pupil in a much more intimate setting. So, when a teacher such as this is replaced, this trust and this respect must be regained over a period of many weeks and often months, which takes away from valuable class time, causing the choir to regress even further. This uncertainty and lack of trust that the new director holds makes chorus one of the most unreliable classes to sign up for, causing many students to drop the class altogether. We speak to you today in hopes of bettering every school within this county and fixing the problem for generations of dedicated musicians to come. Throughout this journey, we have gained a great deal of valuable knowledge, and we are passionate about making a change to our school and to our community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Grace McWaters, and I'm also a choral director at South River. Each school is allotted a set number of teachers as determined by the county budget, and according to the number of students signed up for the courses offered, teachers are moved around and repurposed, meaning that if there is a smaller concentration of students with a particular interest, the school may not be able to support this in a structured classroom setting. However, a recent amendment to policy has created a tense atmosphere within our music department. If the mandatory quantity of students needed for a course is increased, the only 2 faculty members of South River High School Music Department will face hardships. Such increase would logically decrease the number of courses available, for there would be too many students trying to meet the needs of such quantity, thinning out the number of courses overall. This has resulted in such concern within our department, faculty, and students alike. In addition, although clubs can be a very good way of exploring the many passions within a school, students with rigorous schedules may not have the same opportunities to be involved. Furthermore, the same experiences and opportunities are not available to students solely in clubs, specifically in regard to the music-related clubs. Students would not be able to attend all-county and all-state choir or festival, which are programs that provide incredible experiences for all students. Therefore, students who do not or cannot attend specialized schools such as PVA or Cat South will not possess all the opportunities to expand their interests as those enrolled in classes. Art classes such as music and other artistic courses have an important impact on the development of academically strong individuals. According to DoSomething.org, schools with music programs have an estimated 90.2% graduation rate and 93.9% attendance rate, compared to schools without music education, which average 72.9% graduation rate and 84.9% attendance. From the Michigan Art Education Association, students who take 4 years of art and music classes average almost 100 points better on their SAT scores than students who take only 1.5 year or less. However, the issue of school staffing extends further than just our music program. Often classes with specific interests, such as career preparatory classes, are cut along with music programs due to the smaller enrollment these classes draw in. Career preparatory classes offer skills that can give students insights to the careers that they want to pursue and give a head start into their future. Here to share her experience with such a class is Ashley. Thank you.
My name is Ashley Rogers, and I'm fourth born of 5 kids. Ever since my older brother was born, my parents have worked in a family business, Rogers & Sons Well Service. This is how we have been able to afford everything we need. The business is a huge part of my family's life, as without it, we wouldn't be where we are today. To help run the family business, I had planned to take a business management class next year. I felt I would gain the basic knowledge needed to run a small company. I was told a couple weeks back that the business management and entrepreneurship class wasn't available next year. Without this class, I won't have nearly as much background knowledge on how to run a business, which will make it hard for me to continue our family business. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chungwon David Rowe, recipient of the 2018 High School Outstanding Student Achievers for Artistic Achievements within South River High School. As principal cellist, oboist, pianist, baritone voice, and composer, I hold true that music is impactful for all students and faculty within our school. During our renowned Nest period, I have even played the piano and cello in front of the main office on multiple occasions, where students and teachers alike stopped to listen and enjoy, if not sing along to, my street-like performances. The smiles I see on these people's faces have moved me. It made me realize that members of our school have a great interest in music. Although they might not have means to take the courses at the school, this has not stopped the multitudes of students from attending the rock concerts and the presidential quartets that have been held during Nest in past years. Unfortunately, in years past, I have seen the academic crisis of faculty appropriation take place. During my 7th grade year, the Chinese courses offered in middle school and high school were planned to be cut entirely due to a supposed lack of participants in the course. However, with persevering individuals with a love for the Chinese language and culture, we were able to keep the class alive. Today, Chinese is an impactful aspect of our school and community, spreading our influence to the point where 46 students plan to take Chinese 2 next year, a significant increase in comparison with the 12 that registered during my freshman year. This dedication, however, is not unparalleled in the music department, for even more students are dedicated to music and plan to pursue such interest further in the future. However, due to current policy, the music department is once again threatened. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maddie Falk. Coming from singing in the PVA program and all-county and all-state chorus, I was more advanced than a lot of the students in chorus because some of the students in my class had never taken a music class before. Due to the cut time position and the shuffling around of teachers, there was no music theory or chorus class that was my level. Music is half of my life, and as much as I love music, I didn't love learning the same theory that I learned in 6th grade, both again in 9th and 10th grade, simply because the teachers couldn't afford to stay at South River and create new classes. One of our teachers, Miss Lister, tried to create an honors course and a more advanced theory class. Sadly, this didn't happen because Miss Lister's position was cut to half-time and she had to leave the school. Dr. Orr has also tried to help better our chorus program, but with an increasing number of students and a decreasing teaching position, our school might never get these other classes. Music means so much to us, and it's an incredible form of self-expression. It shouldn't be cut when it carries such a profound message. Taylor is also a chorus student enrolled at South River.
Good morning, I'm Taylor Jones. I came into Cornish brand new and didn't really know anything about music or how to read it. I was also brand new to the school, so I didn't know anyone there. So far being in Cornish, I made new friends and I know how to read some of the music. The teacher and some of the students helped me with it, but they taught me a lot. They taught me how to sing different pitches and which note is which. It's been a great learning experience in my opinion. I would hate to see something to happen either to the teacher or have our schedule change. All of us has worked so hard in chorus, and most of the people can sing really well. They can really express their talent and not hide it. In conclusion, I just wanted to share what chorus have done to help me and how we would fight to get the music department as important as all the other classes.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah Goodman, also known as Jay Goodman, and I come from a family of engineers, doctors, architects, and computer geeks, so it's always been expected of me to grow up to be a businessman or a surgeon, but I took my first choir class in 3rd grade, and I've been enrolled in choir every single year since then. Not only has the music program been my only outlet through a lot of trying times, but it has made me realize how much of an impact music can have on people of all walks of life. I've had friends who have come into choir brand new and leave for college to become a music teacher or even begin to compose their own music. There are a lot of kids that won't be exposed to the opportunities I've had learning instruments and singing in honors choirs. Our kids need music in their lives as not only a form of self-expression but a form of stability for their future. Thank you.
My name is Caroline Davison. I am a choral officer, and I was also a member of the 2018 All-State Treble Chorus this year. I moved from Illinois to Maryland halfway through middle school. As a shy, introverted kid who had the same friends her entire life, it was a very hard transition for me. I wasn't good at making new friends, and I was scared to talk to anyone. When a few girls from chorus invited me to spend a lunch period with them in the chorus room, I felt a sense of belonging for one of the first times since my move. We sang a couple of songs on the piano, and we laughed as we struggled through made-up harmonies, and we became fast friends after that. That year, the chorus room became my safe haven. It was a happy place where I could be myself. Music helped me get out of my shell and introduced me to a group of kind, talented, and caring individuals who became my best friends and are still my best friends to this day. They encouraged me to join chorus, which has been one of the best decisions I could have made, because I've joined a universal community of people who all have a connection to me despite the fact that we've never met before. Music is a universal language. It connects people in a way that nothing else really does. It gave me a way to connect with my peers, it gave me my best friends, and it gave me a voice I didn't know I had inside me before. For that, it's one of the most precious things in the world to me, and I cannot express to you how heartbreaking it is that kids who are in the same position as me might not have the benefits of music at their fingertips in a few years. Music can be life-changing, and I am living proof of that. It's important, it's necessary, and it can change lives if we allow it to thrive in our schools. That's why music teachers are so important. They are the leaders and orchestrators behind every amazing experience I've had with music in school. Cutting them is a mistake, because music does not exist without our wonderful music teachers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria Steinholtz, and I'm a STEM student at South River High. I'm also president of the orchestra and officer of Triumph Music Honor Society, and I've led our viola section for several years now. As much as I enjoy my advanced science and math courses, music classes have taught me more and different things that those science classes could never have taught me. So I urge you to reconsider the funding for music departments across the county.
My name is Tori Davis, and I am the vice president of chorus at my school. I am the oldest of 5, and I want to make a more enriching educational experience for my siblings and the future children of Anne Arundel County. I strive for the ability for youth to work towards becoming well-rounded individuals with passions that make them unique. The ability for our young adults to pursue their careers early and set themselves on the track to personal success. And the ability for us to be supported by our community in our efforts to grow. The bottom line to achieving these aims is that we need to have more teachers within our school, and in conjunction, the minimum class sizes need to be lowered so that we can have more unique classes that fit our diverse range of student interests. Now that we have demonstrated the importance of these courses, we would like to discuss solutions. A possible solution could be found in county taxes. Though this is never a popular solution, realistically, we cannot raise this money as a separate entity from the citizens of this county. Education is a highly important expenditure, as the education of our children directly impacts the future of our nation. Here in Anne Arundel County, we have a tax cap that we are not reaching. Though approximately the same percentage of the budget is allotted towards education in Anne Arundel County as Howard and Montgomery, these counties have higher taxes, meaning that more money goes towards education. Furthermore, if every working citizen here in the county was to pay as little as $5 towards hiring more teachers, the mean annual salary of 20 full-time teachers could be paid. Taxes may not be the optimal solution, but us, as dedicated students, passionate about the enrichment of our education, are determined to work with our community to help find a solution and make Anne Arundel County as strong as we can be. Thank you.
Mr. Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out and supporting music. As a student musician myself, having taken 3 music classes my senior year, I certainly appreciate the value of music in our schools. Dr. Arlotto, for clarification, does the board make decisions about staffing individual departments in schools?
No, thank you. I also want to thank you guys. It's awesome to be here, and I have a couple comments also. So the answer, Ms. Reiner, is no. That staffing is distributed to the principals, and the principals make final decisions about how many they'll have in the math department or the music department or tech ed. Those decisions are made on a year-to-year basis based on enrollment and student requests. So this is not something, so thank you for the clarification, it's not something the board would make a decision on about supplying more staff as at the same time directing it where it would go at a particular school. I'm assuming you guys have sat down with Mr. Myers, right? And you need to continue to do that, right? Advocate there. Mr. Myers and his team will make the final decisions about where they distribute staffing. There may very well be additional staffing that could go out to the high schools in particular areas in bits and pieces depending on the ultimate part of the budget. One of the comments made was increasing music staffing. This board moved forward a budget with 2.3 instrumental music teachers in its budget for next year. We're hoping that we'll work through the county council and hope that that gets funded. But this board did add some budget amount for 2.3 more instrumental music teachers in our schools. So we'll continue to work with the county council and move forward with that. So I thought you guys did a super job. Please stay in touch with Mr. Myers. I'll reach out to him also just in case he doesn't know that you guys are not in school. Not saying anything, right? I won't use any names, right? Won't use any names, but I'll reach out to Mr. Myers this afternoon and let him know you guys are here and what you're advocating for. Thank you.
We do understand that the Board of Education doesn't decide which teachers go where. We're just given a set number of teachers, and then from there the principal makes the decisions. We're just advocating for more money towards the overall amount of teachers.
Absolutely, and that was heard loud and clear. Overall staffing, in particular, the music and the business courses are important to our students. Absolutely. We heard you loud and clear. Well done.
Thank you all so much. So, next up, Lyndon Wynn, John Earl, and Mike Shea.
Good morning. My name is Linda Nguyen. I live in Shadyside. And this morning I dropped off registration forms for my son at Shadyside Elementary School, where he'll be starting kindergarten this fall. I did that with a lot of angst and not a lot of confidence. The staff I've interacted with at Shadyside Elementary School have been lovely, and I have heard wonderful things about the teachers. But my primary interaction with the school system and the school board have been less than ideal in connection with the proposed cell tower at Shadyside Elementary. On Monday night, we had a community meeting with the cell tower company, Milestone Communications, as a part of the required steps of this process. At the meeting, Milestone representatives provided more untruths about their proposed project, and I will share just 3 of those. First, a community member asked if Milestone intended to skip the required community meeting, and they replied no, although in their permit modification application submitted February of this year, they did ask to skip the community meeting, and that was denied by Planning and Zoning, with a 1-page explanation of why, including the fact that they felt that the community meeting held in August of last year should suffice. Second, another community member asked Milestone why they are using lime in the construction of the project, and the Milestone representative, Len Forkas, was adamant that they were not. Why then does their drawing specifications show that they will be using 200 to 400 pounds per 1,000 square feet? Their limit of disturbance is a little over 10,000 square feet, making the amount of lime 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of lime in direct proximity to wetlands. Lime changes the chemistry of water and soil and is very detrimental to wetlands and habitats. Third, a community member asked about a lot consolidation that took place in December signed by Superintendent Arlotto and Board President Hummer. And Milestone replied that it was necessary, the lot consolidation, to shift the tower north on the site. I believe at the previous board meeting, or maybe the one before that, Superintendent Arlotto, you publicly stated that the lot consolidation was for tax simplification purposes only. Why are you continuing to allow your proposed tenant to manipulate the system and violate your own policies? Why is there misinformation at every step in the process? This is supposed to be an open, transparent process, and it has been nothing close to that. AACPS has failed our community in this specific project. I ask that you re-examine your deal with Milestone and cancel the project due to lack of transparency, accountability, and oversight. Please help rebuild public trust and confidence in our public school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Shea, Shady Side. Today I bring you an update of Milestone's attempt to put a square peg in a round hole, otherwise known as your project, to place a cell tower next to the Shady Side Elementary School new kindergarten and playground. Planning and Zoning has denied all three of Milestone's waivers of process, which are basically called modifications, and one of which was to have a public meeting. So Monday night they did their best to do the minimum required and picked a place, a small venue with little parking. You should know that the cell tower temporary PTO leadership of the Shadyside Elementary School managed to turn out 5 people, which was a record high for them, further dispelling the pro-cell tower majority myth. Baltimore Fox News TV crew was there because the attempt and concern to place cell towers at elementary schools is now a national issue. The president of Milestone, Len Forkas, again had a hard time answering questions with accurate facts, but 2 items conflict with some of your public statements at the last board meeting I attended. One, that Mr. Forkas confirmed to us that this December lot consolidation was necessary for Milestone's proposed location of the tower for submission to the county. This is in direct contradiction to the statement and reason Dr. Arlotto gave to the public when he shared with you that he did not think it necessary to share with the board on this land use issue. This is contrary to my read of school board policy concerning authority on land use issues, which states it be brought before you. I would finish by addressing Terry Gillian's comment to me last time that I was here, that I was grandstanding, when I brought to the attention that he was taking Milestone money that did not pass the ethics community smell test. What Terry refers to as grandstanding, I call standing up for my community, which I've been doing for the last 25 years. I've been in the leadership the last 23 years of South Arundel Citizens for Responsible Development, and we've won every issue we have taken on. And that includes saving Franklin Point, 500 acres on the bay, filing suit against the county executive and the county on school capacity, stopping big box shopping proposals in our small communities, including a $1 billion company. Most recently, we ended a 12-year effort to stop inappropriate and illegal effort to develop into the critical areas. We saved 200 acres of wooded wetlands known as Turtle Run. It's scheduled to be acquired by the county as a national park. I call this standing up, and I do it every day as an unpaid community volunteer. Your name calling does not hide the fact that you have taken the Milestone money.
Dr. Arlotto.
Yeah, Mr. Shea, let's make it really clear, very clear, that I never kept anything from this board. This board was informed about the lot consolidation, through their attorney. Let's make that abundantly clear.
It was not done in the public business. It's a public business. It was not done in the public.
Mr. Shea, your time is up. Thank you. Mr. Earl.
Good morning. I'm here again to express my concern about putting a cell tower at Shadyside Elementary School. The reality is you're really mandating, without informed consent, a real, tangible, measurable radiation that does not exist on that school grounds today. In fact, parents across the nation are trying to get towers removed from schools. Just in the news this week is a story about a school where this year 6 kids got cancer, and the parents, understandably, are fighting really hard to try and get the tower removed from the school grounds. It's really a human rights issue if you think about it, because the kids should be assured 100% that the place they spend their days every day is 100% safe. So I'm begging you to please do something about this. Now, a Shadyside community member has identified an alternate site that achieves everyone's goals and respects everyone's concerns. This idea was brought up at the public meeting this past Monday. Nobody objected. In fact, it received the biggest round of applause of anything that night. Planning and zoning has even offered to us that this idea would be a win-win for everybody. So, Dr. Alado, would you, or any other board member for that matter, be willing to meet and discuss this idea further? If it's a win-win idea, I feel like it must be worth your time and attention. Yes, no?
Oh, sure. I'm not willing to meet because I don't have any control over an alternative site for cell tower.
Well, I think in our meeting,
I have no control over that.
I think there's some interesting ideas that really are, can make it work for everybody, and your involvement would be a part of that. And I don't want to go into the details right now in public, but I think definitely worth your time and attention. So we'll follow up, and if anybody else is interested in this, what I'm talking about, I feel like the school board, you have an opportunity to actually do something, and the whole community will rejoice and support your support. So,
Mr. Granlund.
Hi. Several months ago, I moved that there be an up or down vote on this issue. I was the only one that supported that, and I lost. That's part of the democratic process. I tried. I lost. Some of those various environmental victories that Mr. Shea was referencing, some of those must have involved lawsuits. Why don't you all go file a lawsuit? Because you're not serving your constituents by coming here saying the same thing over and over to people who are not going to give you what you want. File a lawsuit.
Are you saying we should go away?
No back and forth. Thank you, Mr. Earl. So we will now move on. Items 4.01 through items 4.05 are consent items. Do I have a motion to bundle 4.01 through 4.05? All those in favor? Okay, this is an information to action item. Do I have a motion to move this from information to action? All those in favor? Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend that the Board of Education approve the contracts as listed on today's agenda, 4.01 through 4.05.
Right. Are there any board questions or comments on these contracts? Okay. Is there any public comment? All right. All those in favor? Motion passed. Item 5.01 is administrative personnel appointments, and there are no appointments for this meeting. Item 5.02 is personnel. Do I have a motion? This is an action item. I'm sorry. Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
Okay. Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President. I know that there will be some celebratory time between now and the end of the school year, but one individual in particular, and I know there are many outstanding educators on this list who are retiring after, I couldn't count them up, but we're looking at hundreds and hundreds of years of service. But Ray Bebo in particular is one that I just wanted to highlight and publicly say to him thank you. He's just, I don't know if he's in here today, but he's just a class act, and he will be missed. So thank you, Mr. Bebo.
Thank you.
And I will do the same. It's always a little bittersweet to see the resignation list at the end when we see these career educators leaving. Lucia Martin is another one that will be sorely missed. And I also have to say Nancy Breslin, who heads the special ed department at Glen Burnie High School, who spent 38 years there, and she will be greatly missed as well. So are there any other comments from the board? All those in favor? Okay. Item 5.03 is an information item, policy GAD. Ms. Ortiz.
Good morning. I think we're still good morning. Jeanette, for the record, Jeanette Ortiz, Legislative and Policy Counsel. Today, the Division of Student Support Services is bringing policy GAD, confidential communication, reporting of at-risk student behavior, before you for first reading. This policy was last revised on July 18th, 2013. The updated policy and regulation have been revised to clarify the procedures for addressing and reporting various at-risk student behaviors, including suicidal threats and gestures, self-injurious behaviors, runaway, threat and actions, requests for drug and alcohol counseling, requests for mental health support, and requests for support regarding pregnancy. This policy will be posted on our website for 30 days for a public comment period. I have staff here with me that would be happy to answer questions, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good morning. Ryan Vogelin, Director of Student Services.
Sally Egan, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services.
Kelly Anderson, Coordinator of Psychological Services.
Are there any board questions or comments on this policy? I don't think y'all don't have anything today. Is there any public comment? So this will go out on the website for a 30-day period for public comment.
Yes, I will be posting it today. Correct.
Okay. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5.04 is policy GAII.
The Division of Human Resources, along with Food and Nutrition Services, are bringing policy GAII, Staff Wellness, before you for first reading. This policy was last revised on July 12th, 2006. The updated policy and regulations, there are 2 regulations that go with the policy, have been revised to align with federal and state requirements regarding food and nutrition to provide guidance on employee wellness at AACPS. And it will be posted on our website for a 30-day public comment period. I have staff with me today, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good morning, Jody Rissy, Supervisor of Food and Nutrition Services.
Good morning, Jessica Kutchis, Executive Director of Human Resources.
And we are happy to answer any questions.
Because we're talking wellness, we had like a huge number of schools that were just recognized for renewing their wellness certifications from Maryland Green Schools, correct? Mm-hmm. So I forget how many, but it was a lot. It was a lot. It was, and Arlington Echo is now a sustainable green facility, so, which is fabulous. So that's not with this policy, but I thought I'd throw it in there while we're at it. So are there any board questions or comments on this policy? So, all right, any public comment? So this will be posted for the next 30 days?
Correct. It will go on our website today for 30-day public comment.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Reese, you may as well just stay. I think you're on next as well. So item 5.05 is food and nutrition services pricing. This is an information to action item. Do I have a motion to move this from information to action? All those in favor? Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend a no increase in the food and nutrition services pricing for the 2018-2019 school year.
Do I have a motion? All right. And we do not have a presentation. Are there any board questions or comments on this? I have one. I would like to, so we have listed on our sheet the number of locations we're having for summer meals this summer. Is that an increase over last year?
On the yellow sheet, the 48 locations, we're still working for this summer coming up, so that was our exact number from 2017. For 2018, we're there. We actually have even a few more. So we continue to look throughout. Really, the second summer ends, we start looking for the next summer. So we'll add them from now up until when we start on June 18th, and we'll continue to add if we get them throughout the summer.
Great.
And with that, in relation to summer meals, Ms. Reese and her team recently were awarded the U.S. Department of Agriculture Silver Award for Turnip the Beat. And I say that with emphasis. For the summer meals program, congratulations. You all do amazing work throughout the year and throughout the summer. Thank you.
Yes, our sheet says they served 125,000 summer meals last summer to many of our students who are sometimes in food deserts and not receiving that. And so this is an amazing achievement, and I know you've grown it enormously over the past few years.
Right. I think last summer alone, this summer we added 40,000 meals.
And the farmers market at Brooklyn Park Middle begins?
That'll begin on June 18th. It's every Monday from 11 to 2, so please join us there.
And Madam President, if I might just add one comment, I think, one of the biggest things we've overlooked during this discussion is this would be the fourth time in a row that Ms. Ritchie has brought stable pricing. So in spite of rising labor costs, benefit costs, commodity costs, fuel costs, et cetera, this will be the fourth time in a row, which means the fifth year in a row that prices will remain exactly the same as they were back 5 years ago. So it's an amazing feat on her part.
Mr. Grannon.
Yeah, just a quick question. How are families informed of the availability of these summer meals?
And we do multiple things. We actually do connected messages globally. So all of our open sites are free to anybody 2 to 18. Literally just walk into our schoolhouse and you can get a free breakfast or lunch. Some do breakfast, not all. We also do mobile meals, and we target those specific areas and those principals so they can send out messaging along with sending out flyers to the students that are on those bus routes. So what we do is we take the AACPS buses, and we have 2 vans that go into the communities and serve lunch Monday through Thursday. We market through rec and parks, so most of their programs that are in a high need area, we're able to fulfill the nutrition need or their healthy meal option. Department of Health, it goes on our website, numerous, flooding of us and all of our community partners. So it's really a collaborative movement to get as much word out and as much participation as we can.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other board questions or comments? Is there any public comment? All right. All those in favor? All right, moving ahead. Looking forward to Farmers Market.
Thank you.
Item 5.06 is Edgewater Elementary School Storm Water Management Inspection. This is an information to action item. Do I have a motion to move this from information to action? All those in favor? Dr. Arlotto, your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. I recommend board approval of the Edgewater Elementary School Stormwater Management Inspection and Maintenance Agreement.
Do I have a motion? Okay. Are there any board questions or comments on this inspection and maintenance agreement? Is there any public comment? All right, all those in favor? Okay, all those in favor? Motion. Item 5.07 is the 2018-2019 school year calendar update. This is an information to action item. Do I have a motion to move this from information to action? All those in favor? All right. And Ms. Tudor.
Mr. Mosier is going to start.
Good morning, Bob Mosier, Chief Communications Officer, here with Teresa Tudor to bring you an update on the 2018-19 school calendar. Just by way of review, in November, this board approved the calendar for next year. Classes will start on September the 4th and end on the 14th of June, which falls within the governor's executive order. Easter spring break was reduced to 3 days. Parent-teacher conferences were reduced from 3 to 2 days, and schools will be open on the MSE conference day. The board also built 3 days into the calendar for inclement weather. 2 days at the end of the year, and the third day is Easter Monday, and we'll come back to that in a second. The General Assembly, as you know, passed legislation, and the governor signed into law a bill that would allow schools to add 5 days into their calendar past June the 15th without a waiver from the state. The June 15th date remains in the legislation, and that led the state board to interpret the legislation to mean that the calendars must be built on a June 15th closing date. So the makeup days, at least 3, have to be built into the calendar again by June 15th. And the state board recommends, obviously, that school systems should provide notice to the community that if those makeup days aren't sufficient, they could add 5 days. So what does that mean for us? It means because the 5 days can't be put into the school year, they can't be used to, for example, extend Easter spring break back to 6 days, add more inclement weather days, or address other days like MSEA, Rosh Hashanah, more days during Thanksgiving week, any of those kinds of things. Easter Monday must also be left as the third inclement weather day to meet the 3 days that were required to build in for inclement weather. So the considerations for the board today are whether to formally designate the week of June 17th through 21st as conditional snow days, or inclement weather days, I guess, to leave all the other designations in place as you adopted them on November 2nd, and then you could also have conversation about choosing another day in lieu of Easter Monday that you may wish to use as that third day. But when we're done today, there has to be 3 inclement weather days in the calendar before June 15th.
So currently, we have Easter Monday as a possible day that would be taken away for an inclement weather day.
Right.
Are there any other days in the calendar that could be used for that third inclement weather day besides Easter Monday? So rather than shortening spring break, are there any other days that could be designated?
Yes, there are. There are 3 optional days that we have. Really, only one that's a good solution. The other 2 would be November 21st, which is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which of course we know is not popular for either teachers, community, or our parents, because so many people travel for that day. And April 18th, which is the Thursday of spring break, you could move it from the Monday to the Thursday. Our suggestion would be to move it to March 5th, which is a day now, the second day of parents-teacher conferences. And teachers are already working that day. We would just open it if we had had 2 days already prior to March 5th. Then we would open on March 5th as the third snow day. That way you could protect the 3 days that are right now inclement weather or spring break, because parents could go ahead and plan whatever they wanted to do, as well as teachers. By having the 3 days, we can then use the 5 if we have more than that. We wouldn't have to touch our spring break. As it is now, we could not utilize the 5 until we have used that Easter Monday, because that's what we have in our calendar as a third day. So if we want to preserve spring break, we need to move that third day to be able to utilize our additional 5.
So for example, if you had 5 snow days next year, you would have to use the 3 days that you've built in, which means that schools would have to open on Easter Monday, and 2 of the days past the 15th of June. You couldn't use 3 days past the 15th of June and opt not to use Easter Monday.
The third day has to be identified.
Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the board designate on the 2018-19 school year calendar the dates of June 17th through the 21st, 2019 as conditional days on which schools would be open for students should the need arise due to inclement weather closings during the regular school year.
Are there any board questions or comments on this amendment? This amendment that would add those 5 days as possible days if the other 3 days are used in the calendar due to inclement weather. Ms. Korbelak.
So if we add those 5, we would have 8 planned snow days in the calendar. What's our Even on our worst snowy year, how many have we used?
Well, we've used, when we had Snowmageddon, we used 10, but other than that, we typically range between 3 and 5 is our average that we've done within the last 10 years.
So it's not necessarily a need to make 8 built-in snow days.
No, you would
we
just
could make
you
5
would just
or 6.
designate that we could use those.
And I had a conversation with someone at MSD this week, and the 5 days that you build in would count as altering your calendar, which is what you need to do to be eligible for a waiver. So if we build in the 3 that COMAR requires, we add the 5 as conditional, which is altering our calendar, and we use 9, to use your example, right? Then we would be eligible for a waiver.
And this is also not direction from, but suggested from the state superintendent. So I believe all of our colleagues around the state will be adding similar language to their calendars, just giving parents a heads up that those days could be usurped for additional snow days. It's just a precautionary measure and for open information.
Mr. Grannon.
Need to use the 3 days, and one of those days is moved to March 5th. What would happen to the parent-teacher conferences that were to be held on that day?
You would not hold them. You would lose them.
You would lose
And
it.
we'd go down to one parent-teacher conference for the entire year?
Yes.
Now, that would be one scheduled, but parents could still schedule
Right, parents can
scheduled
always
ones, but we wouldn't have a designated
conferences.
day that would be set aside.
We wouldn't close school for a day
Right.
for it, but parents always have the opportunity to schedule conferences.
Are there any other board questions or comments on this amendment? Is there any public comment on this amendment? Okay. All those in favor? All those in favor of designating on the 2018-2019 school year calendar the dates of June 17th through the 21st, 2019 as conditional days on which schools would be open for students should the need arise due to inclement weather closings during the regular school year. All those in favor? Okay, motion passes. Now, do you want to do that one? Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the board alter the 2018-19 school year calendar to reflect March 5th, 2019 as a conditional date on which schools would be open for students only if AACPS has already used 3 or more inclement weather days prior to that date. This motion would also remove Easter Monday, April 22nd, 2019, as the designated conditional date.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Are there any board questions or comments regarding this amendment? Mr. Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam President. In COMAR, is there a particular window from which we must select these 3 days?
Yeah, 3 to 10. I mean, what COMAR says is the range has been 3 to 10.
There's not a calendar time. Which,
So, for example, and Ms. Schulheim, this is just an example, we could select September 19th, say.
You could.
You could, but if you're going to make it a conditional day, you would have to have used up your 3rd snow day by that point.
So what is preventing us from picking a day that we're not likely to use and preserve a parent conference Easter Monday and just accept that we're going to extend?
It does have to be approved from MSDE, and I doubt that they would approve that. Now, I don't know that they won't because we've never submitted something like that, but it would have to be approved by them.
Just a thought.
Believe me, we have discussed those things too.
I totally get where you're going, but I would suspect that they would probably think we were not going to use a snow day by September 19th. But a hurricane day.
It's kind of the same thing with the Thursday before or the Wednesday. I keep saying Thursday before Thanksgiving.
We don't normally
Rarely do we use all of our snow days prior to that date.
Prior to Thanksgiving. Now, we have been known fairly regularly to use snow days after March 5th.
Yes, and that's okay. We still have met the condition.
We would still have met the condition. So even if we have more snow days after March 5th, let's say we haven't used any inclement weather days by March 5th, we go ahead, we hold our parent conference, but we have 5 after that, we will not have to go to Easter Monday if we make this change to the calendar.
Correct.
We'll just be able to use the days added on to the end of the school year.
True.
So it's all like conditional weather day. It depends on there. So, all right. Are there any other board questions or comments? Ms. Korbelak.
I support Terry's amendment because if you look at our calendar, Easter and spring break is so late.
It is.
And we have all this time. If we don't have any snow days, I think our students are going to be, and our teachers are going to be more than ready to have 5 days off and not have one of them taken away.
So are there any public comments on this amendment? On this amendment, you can come up. We're going to do the overall calendar in a minute. So, all right. So all those in favor of altering the 2018-2019 school year calendar to reflect March 5th, 2019 as a conditional date on which schools would be open for students only if AACPS has already used 3 or more inclement weather days prior to that date. This motion would also remove Easter Monday, April 22nd, 2019 as the designated conditional date. All those in favor? Okay, motion passes. We will now have a vote on the entire calendar as amended. Are there any other board questions or comments about the calendar as we have currently amended it? If there are any public comments, Ms. Schalheim.
Hello. Good afternoon, board. Good to see you. I'm Dana Schalheim. You all know me. It appears that we've had a development, a negative one, since our last board meeting regarding HB 679, Senate Bill 729, that is now law. Although not released officially yet, at least not to my knowledge, at least it appears that MSDE and their primary counsel may interpret the new law so narrowly that it leaves us all back at square one. It seems as though they are intent as interpreting the law as follows. Schools must remain in their unsustainably tight box between Labor Day and June 15th with 3 snow days built in, and only in cases of an apocalyptic winter when those days are used up, can schools use the extra 5 days the new law provides. For the benefit of the audience and anyone listening at home, maybe even members of MSDE, this was not the intent of HB 679, Senate Bill 729, nor its authors, co-sponsors, supporters, nor of those like myself who bled out for 7 months fighting for what's right, nor of the 2 local rabbis who submitted written testimony, Mabe, and all the others who submitted oral and written testimony I coordinated and collected from all over the state. The intent was to give up to 5 extra school days past June 15th without a waiver, period. No strings, no games, just flexibility this school district and many others need. I know this board, its council, Mabe, and its friends on other boards statewide will continue to do all that you can to get the flexibility needed to craft common sense calendars that won't force intolerance or produce a calendar that forces students to forego any meaningful break between winter break and the end of the school year. And I thank you again for your support.
And I do want to be clear that if a different reading comes out about this bill and we are told that there's a flexibility, the board can revisit and amend the calendar at that time.
But it's not official. It's only in conversation, right? It hasn't been officially written.
There is nothing official has come out, but but that is the word that we've received, and we must act on that. But we'll, if there is a change in the reading, that we can revisit the calendar.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard. Please.
I'm Richard Bedford, president of the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County. I want to echo what I just heard. Every person I've talked to, this is not the interpretation that they went forward with in the General Assembly, but this is what we are stuck with. So, of course, we need to advocate together going forward to make those changes. And it's another way that we can collaborate to get something changed for the good of our students and teachers. I appreciate the hard work that Dana's put in to get things rolling. And our friend back here, Jeanette Ortiz, who has worked tirelessly to figure all this out. Ultimately, we need those 5 days to be more flexible. And I think everyone agrees with that. And we need to go arm in arm once again together to make that happen. So I appreciate the work people have done. Thank you, Teresa and Bob, for their hard work. And I will see you another time, I'm sure, to talk about this issue.
Ms. Korbelak.
I just wanted to add for the public, the reason why we are bringing this forward today instead of just waiting for an official opinion to come out is because our calendar is due to the state board.
All right, if there's no other comment, all those in favor of the passing the calendar as amended? Okay, we're done. Thank you. What? Oh. Item 6.01 is a review item. The county executives recommended FY 2019 operating and capital budgets, and we do have a staff presentation.
Good afternoon. By way of introduction, I'm Alex Shaknovich, Chief Operating Officer.
Matt Stansky, Director of Financial Operations.
Lisa Seaman Crawford, Director of Facilities.
And we had the pleasure yesterday of attending the county executive's unveiling of his budget recommendation for the fiscal year 2019, both operating and capital. That initiated at 11 a.m. yesterday morning. We're just a few minutes past 12 today this afternoon, so we've only had about 24 hours, 25 hours to actually comb through the recommendation. So what we're presenting today is, to the best of our ability, we believe an accurate portrayal of the budget as it exists within the documents that we've had the opportunity to review. If it is okay with the board, we intend to go through the operating budget first and then address any questions or clarifying issues that might need to be dealt with, and then we will turn the page and move into the capital budget. With that, on the operating budget then, the one-page summary that you have before you, let's go over the revenue to begin with. And the way the page is actually constructed, moving from the middle of the page to the right, you have the approved Board of Education's budget in the fiscal year 2018, the year we're currently in. The request that the board codified and put forward to the county executive's office by March 1 for the fiscal year 2019. The difference of the board's request, so the net increase or decrease in FY19 over 18. Second column from the right then is what the county executive has proposed in his budget as released yesterday morning for fiscal year 19, and then the difference fiscal year 18 over 19. So again, on the revenue side, the board's request was for $2.1 million of recognized federal appropriation authority. The county executive's recommendation matches that. On a state side, unrestricted, there was approximately a $9.54 million increase in state revenue. The county executive's recommendation recognizes that appropriation authority as well. The county, from the county government, the board's budget requested approximately a $50.86 million increase. The recommendation from the county executive would be approximately a $25.0 million increase. It is important to note at this juncture that the state mandated maintenance of effort calculation would derive approximately a $12.8 million minimum contribution to remain eligible and compliant with state law. So the funding request from the county put forward by the county executive in terms of his recommendation is $12.2 million in excess of maintenance of effort, and thus the budget presented would be compliant with the state MOE mandate. Finally, from the local governmental sources, the Board of Education requested a $690 million appropriation increase be recognized, and that was matched in the county executive's budget, as was the utilization of our fund balance that we did not request an increase in, and the county executive's budget concurs with that. On the restricted side, you'll see that the vast majority of the restricted numbers, again, match exactly with the board's request, with the exception of the a minor adjustment for the internal service healthcare fund, and that's really just a technical amendment, largely due to some of the items below that are not funded for various reasons. So let's go over to the expense side of it. On the expense side of it, the Board of Education asked for a $24.3 million increase in direct compensation with a complementary $2.95 million fixed charges increase. That would have been, as you recall, for a full step increase for those employees eligible and a 2% COLA increase for all employees. The county executive's recommendation, as put forward yesterday, has sufficient funding to provide for the equivalent of a step increase for those, a full step increase for those eligible to occur at the beginning of the fiscal year FY19, and then sufficient funding for a mid-year implementation, which would likely occur in and around the month of January of 2019. Naturally, that is all subject to negotiated agreements and finalization of the bargaining agreements. On the employer's share of health care, the Board of Education had asked for a $4 million permanent contribution. The resulting recommendation from the superintendent is $3 million. We are very comfortable for that, and in fact had that conversation with the county. As you know, we've been very aggressive in accumulating fund balance and going through other cost-saving strategies, et cetera, to shore up the health care fund. And with that, we were able to take a minor reduction in that expenditure, which would allow those revenues then to be redeployed elsewhere within the budget. So that does not give us any pause at all. In terms of the contract school and charter school expansion, that's recommended for full funding as requested by the board, exactly. For the next series, I'm not going to go through each and every one of the board's requests. We'll cover the ones that that are recommended for funding, and then we'll make some overview comments about the rest of them. Specifically, it is our understanding that the county executive's budget contains the full funding for the opening of the Kerry Whedon Pre-K Center in South County, bringing us to now 3 early ed centers countywide. That was for 15.9 positions and $1.75 million. So that is, in fact, a match with the board's request, as is the recommendation to allow the expansion of the EEE program into the Annapolis cluster, utilizing 12.5 FTEs at a cost of $1.25 million. Again, that is a match for the board's budget. The county executive is recommending that we be allowed to make the internal accounting adjustments to recognize the payroll technician in the human resources department and a specialist in a professional growth and development area. Again, that is a no net increase in expenditures. It's again an accounting adjustment internally, but those FTE adjustments would be allowed to transpire. The board's request was for 5.8 psychologists and 8.0 social workers. The recommendation put forward by the county executive would fully fund 2.0 psychologists of that request at a cost of $226,500. In terms of special education, staffing for enrollment growth, the request from the board was for 13 positions at a cost of just in excess of $1 million. The recommendation, the budget documents reflect a 6.0 FTE addition to the special education ranks at a cost of $252,000. In terms of teachers for class size reduction, the board's request was for 45.0 educators in that category at a cost of just under $3.40 million. The budget put forth by the county executive has 44 of those positions funded at a cost of $3.35 million approximately. And finally, in the fiber ring expansion, the board's requested a $1 million increment for the last installment of the fiber ring build-out and expansion program, the multi-year program that you recall Mr. Lyons and others spoke to just recently, and that was, in fact, fully funded. So on the unrestricted side, the original request from the board was for 290.5 positions at a cost of $60.1 million. On the unrestricted side, the recommendations put forward by the county executive's office would have 81.4 of those FTEs authorized with revenue of $35.25 million to support those expenditures. On the restricted side, which is the restricted grants, internal service fund for healthcare, special revenue fund, and a county fund for the non-recurring healthcare costs, again, minus that technical adjustment in the one internal service fund, those were a match from what the board had requested. Therefore, when you get to the bottom line, all in, the board had requested a $55.2 million aggregate increase from all sources, which would have resulted in a 4.78% budget increase. The recommendation put forward from the county executive's office, again netting all sources, will have the revenue at just under $27 million, and specifically be $26,998,900, and that is a year-over-year 2.34% recommended increase. You note I've used recommended many times. That is, in fact, by law what it is. It's the county executive's recommended budget. By statute, the county council has until June 15th to take the county executive's recommendation, not just for the Board of Education, but for all of the other departments of county government and other component units of the county government, and formulate what will become the adopted budget for the county. And again, by charter, that's required to transpire no later than the 15th of June. Currently, that is slated to occur on the 14th of June, leaving 1 day to spare should deliberations go past that. Again, I on purpose skipped all of the other line items in the Board of Education's budget. We're certainly willing to discuss those, but those at present are not recommended for funding to the best of our ability to discern the documents that we've had the ability to review in the last 24 hours. With that, we will turn the floor over to you, Madam President, and your colleagues.
Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you again, as always, for this chart. I think for us and for the public at large, this makes for easy consumption of changes between the superintendent and the board to the county executive, county council, et cetera. So thank you for this, and certainly for the verbal overview and presentation today. I just had one question that was specific to, and it's just to understand the impact, the employer share of healthcare. I certainly understand how the fixed charges recalculate based on the 24.3 million to 18.85 million, and then that delta from 2.9 to 2.2 million or 2.3 million. The change, however, from 4 million to 3 million in the recommendation. The impact of that, and I do apologize, Mrs. Hummer and I were calculating something when you were explaining some of the changes, so if you covered this, I apologize. But that $1 million delta from 4 to 3, the impact is to either our fund balance or to the employee share. What would be, how would we make up that difference?
So essentially, it will be the fund balance, but we have been as aggressive as possible in aggregating the fund balance to shore that up. Now, the trade-off is, albeit the 4 or the 3 million, that's a permanent revenue line into the fund. So we have made some permanent adjustments into the fund, but we've also aggregated a significant amount of one-time money. Some of that contributed from the county. Naturally, we're going through that as we speak, as well as other one-time adjustments that we've been able to identify and budgetarily move over. As you recall, when we closed our books last year, we purposely set aside a specific amount of money to move into the healthcare fund as well. So because of some of those partially aggressive and partially fortunate provisions, we've been able to build up the healthcare reserve to a more healthy level than where we were last year. And as a result of that, we feel that we're on solid ground to ask for $1 million less in the current year, but that really doesn't go away. We need to make sure that the healthcare fund is solvent on a permanent basis. So in all likelihood, it's just a push of the request from the 19 year that may reappear in the 20 year.
Understood. So to be clear then, assuming the recommendation in this line item stands, and we come back with a budget in June that sticks with the $3 million difference, from the Board of Ed request to what the County Council ultimately will approve, assuming this $1 million delta remains, it will not have any impact on the employee share.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. We have a negotiated agreement that has the employee share glide path solidified, and we've agreed with labor that is something we are not revisiting for a defined period of time, and we are fully committing to uphold our end of that deal.
Awesome. I just wanted to make that clear, so thank you so much for the clarification.
Ms. Korbelak.
Thank you for your summary for us. Yesterday I was able to watch the budget presentation remotely, and what was really clear and exciting to me is that this county really has become the best place to live, work, and start a business, as evidenced by the revenue stream that we're seeing. And anybody who's out there trying to bid on a house in this county knows exactly how popular we are. Yesterday during the presentation, we got to hear about all the great things that are going to be funded with this budget, but I did want to highlight while we're here some of the things we're not going to be able to fund if this budget stands, because I think it's important for the public to know. We're not going to be able to fund any bilingual facilitators. We're not going to be able to fund any additional custodians. We're not going to be able to offer our substitute teachers a pay increase. We can't get any more school counselors. We can't provide any additional ED autism classroom teachers in special education. We aren't going to have any teachers for enrollment growth, which has been around 1,700 a year. We are not going to be able to add those instrumental music teachers that our South River students were advocating for today. And then we've already talked about the reduction in some of the amounts of school psychologists that we can bring on board. So I just want to make sure, as folks go forward to advocate to the County Council, that they look through this summary sheet carefully and pick their pet projects that they're concerned about and really make a case if they feel like we need some more revenue.
Thank you, Ms. Korbelak, for bringing that out. All the documents that we're presenting today are going to be available online, so any member of the public will be able to access those and review those at their leisure.
The one line item, it says that the county executive has proposed 44 teachers for class size reduction. We will actually not be able to use teachers for classroom reduction until we've met enrollment growth, correct? So, I mean, we have to serve the children, the new children that come in, and we had requested 106 for enrollment growth to come to enter, and those have to be served first before we can target larger classrooms.
At the macro level, yes, but obviously the deployment of staff and resources is at the direction of the superintendent and the OSP office. So.
Right, but it's this 44 when we are projecting 1,700 students to come in, 44 classroom teachers. It's not necessarily going to result in any smaller classroom sizes.
Correct. I mean, mathematically, the classrooms are going to grow next year over year. They
certainly will grow over that. Okay. I want to say I'm thrilled to see that the Carrie Whedon New Pre-K Center is funded, as well as EEE in Annapolis. I think those are important initiatives that we need in our county. I am very disheartened that with the growing social emotional needs in the county and everything that we're seeing on a daily basis, that there's no guidance counselors that are currently listed in there. And I think we've heard loud and clear from the community, our parents, and from our schools that that is needed. And I hope that the public will go out and speak to the county council, and then the county council will hear us and find a way to fund some more of these positions. Are there any other board questions or comments on the budget? Mr. Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam President. Not only does this budget disregard the social emotional needs of our population, it also disregards our newest comers to our country. We have 4 bilingual facilitators that were not funded, nor the 30 English language acquisition positions that we requested to. We have to come to the reality of who is coming to our county. This is a great place to live and work for all members of society. and we have to recognize those newest members of our community. So I hope that the County Council, in their wisdom, will recognize those folks and give us the bilingual facilitators and the English language acquisition teachers that we desperately need.
Are there any other board questions or comments? Is there any public comment? Okay. The County Council will be having public hearings on the budget on May 10th and at the Arundel Center, and May 14th at North County High School at 7 p.m. And members of the community are encouraged to come out and share your concerns and priorities with the County Council at those times. Thank you very much. And
so
now
with
we
that,
move on.
Madam President, we'd like to move on to the
Yes,
capital budget.
capital budget.
And so, as with the operating budget, we've had a scant 24 hours to comb through the documents, and we believe that this is an accurate portrayal of the capital budget for the fiscal year 2019. The request from the Board of Education amounted to $216 million. This proposed approval expenditure would allow a appropriation authority budget of $157.7 million on the left-hand side. The way this chart is historically constructed is we call it the red, blue, and white chart. As you will notice, red to the left, the decoder says the project's not funded within the county executive's budget. Gladly and happily, there are no red bars on the chart, so there are no line items that were completely unfunded within the county executive's budget. The ones that are banded in blue depict a line item where there is a difference between what the Board of Education requested initially and what is currently proposed within the county executive's budget, and we'll go through those in detail. And then finally, the ones that are banded in a white shading are an exact match. So for example, in the open space classroom enclosure line item number 3, where the Board of Education asked for $8 million, that in fact is fully recommended for funding, as is. So we will start from the top in terms of the differentials and go through them in a little bit of detail and provide some commentary. So for example, in the area of health and safety 19, the board's request is for $1 million. The recommendation is for $750,000. We do have, and you'll hear this more than one time, we do have some fund balance from prior years, as well as we have some prior projects that have come in with good pricing, which leaves us with prior year monies that we can redeploy to the current year. Because unlike the operating budget where the dollars extinguish at June 30th, capital dollars continue to live in perpetuity until the appropriation authority is removed. So again, we'll say this on a number of these lines, the reduction from $1 million to $750,000 does not provide us any pause. We will be able to discharge everything that we had initially intended on discharging in the FY19 year. In the security-related upgrades, you'll see a reduction of $1.5 million down to $1 million. Again, this does not give us pause at all, because as you recall, the county executive recently announced a very robust school safety security initiative. Those dollars reside currently in the county side of the budget. We will be working with the budget office to undertake the necessary legislative action to have that transferred over so that they can be used. But remember, when you add in those dollars plus this $1 million, we're way over $1.5 million. So we'll be able to make some significant inroads in terms of those double entry vestibule locks, the door locks, the security cameras, and some of those other items that were highlighted in the release that the county executive issued over at Annapolis High School just a month ago. Again, line item 3, 4, and 5 were fully funded as requested. The next item that there is a differential, though, is line item 6. The Board of Education's request was for $7 million. The recommendation is for 4. It has been at 4 for a good number of years, so it is consistent with prior budgets. That is one that historically has always continued to give us concern. As you recall, each September we bring forward a capital maintenance plan that has a comprehensive maintenance plan which is adopted by this board, and that the backlog value of our maintenance items continues to tick up at a pretty good clip. And while the $4 million will certainly be put to great use, we certainly would wish that we had some greater ability to make further inroads into that maintenance backlog item. Roof replacements and relocatable classrooms were fully funded. Line items 9 through 12, that being asbestos abatement, barrier-free access, school bus replacement, and additions, you'll see some difference, but in none of those cases are we concerned in terms of our ability to discharge what we had initially planned to do in FY19. Again, we have fund balance from prior years that we can roll forward, and we do that each and every year in partnership with the county to make up the difference. So again, none of those will create an impact towards the plan that we had going into the year ahead. Line items 13 through 15 are fully funded as proposed. For Manorview, High Point, Cromwell, Jessup, and Arnold, there will be no impact to the construction schedule or to the contemplated opening date for any of those projects. The next 3 projects you'll see do in fact have a significant differential to them. That being Edgewater, Tyler Heights, and Richard Henry Lee. So I'll take those individually. So Edgewater Elementary School had a $19.7 million request, and a $4.2 million is the value that has been recommended for appropriation towards that project. Tyler Heights, the request from the board was for $18.2 million. The proposed funding level is at $4.4 million. And for Richard Henry Lee, the request was $16,945,000, and the recommended funding level is $3.101. So we have just initiated some discussions with our construction managers and our design teams and our in-house personnel in Ms. Seaman Crawford's office to be able to sort of dissect what that means for these construction projects. The way that the budgets were built would have allowed us the capacity to begin construction this summer on all 3 projects and remain fully deployed in terms of aggressively constructing the projects for all 12 months of the year. Historically, when we've been partially funded to this level, the approach is actually to work the project backwards. Instead of starting July 1 and working full-time to the end, we actually work the other way. We go to the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. We identify how much money has been allocated towards a project, and then we say, okay, well, given that we only have $4.2 million or $3.1 million, et cetera, how many continuous production months or weeks or days of production do we have adequate funding for? So we will work that clock backwards and calculate, in lieu of starting this summer, are we going to be starting on February 28th or March 15th or April 2nd or however much the cash flow will allow. We simply, it is absolutely not sound construction practice by any way, shape, or form to start the project in July or August, work until October, November, shut the project down, leave it dormant for 8 or 9 months, and then pick the project up in July. That's simply not the way any construction activity occurs. So I simply wanted to paint a picture in your mind that instead of starting in the summer and working forward, we're now going to be working to hone in the starting backwards date to when we can break ground come spring. And again, we don't have those exact dates for you for 2 reasons. 1, we've not had the opportunity to do that detailed level of work. And 2, at this stage, this is a proposal, and the county council certainly might have the opportunity to add funding to these projects, which would alter those times. The other 2 things, the other thing to observe at the macro level, and again, this is very preliminary, but I'll put this out there for all 3 of those projects. Beginning this summer and following through in that aggressive construction schedule that the board's budget would have contemplated, would have had Edgewater Elementary School completing in December of 2020. It now preliminary appears that that project would complete in December of 2021. That would be the same for Tyler Heights. The completion date would shift from December 2020 to December 21. And Richard Henry Lee would shift from July of 2020 to July of 2021. And I said preliminary and macro because that is certainly that. We've not been able to dig in. That essentially is a shift. We will make every effort we possibly can to begin as soon as we can, and also to be as aggressive as we possibly can to try and improve upon those dates. TBD, though, more information to be forthcoming as we continue our analysis and as we continue to work with the County Council to see if the funding picture can improve on those. Moving forward to Crofton, line item 21, the board's request was for $54.8 million. That's been reduced to $47.4 million. We are completely comfortable with that number. In fact, we communicated that number to the county's budget office. We are not reducing the cost of the project, so we cash flow these projects. Again, we know to a fairly high degree of precision how much cash we need each and every month to keep these projects moving. And we did that analysis and conveyed that to the county. So the delta, the gap between the $54.8 million and the $47.4 million, you'll see later in this document, that isn't a reduction. That appropriation authority simply is being relocated. So it's a minor reduction in the FY19 year with a dollar-for-dollar commensurate increase in 2020. It doesn't delay the impact. It doesn't delay the project. It doesn't delay the progress of the work out in the field in any way, shape, or form. So that, again, gives us no pause. Line item 22, a $200,000 reduction in health room modifications. Again, we're comfortable with that. Shift. Line items 23 through 28 are fully funded as recommended by the Board of Education. Line item 29 is a line item that you'll see at this stage depicts a reduction of funding for athletic stadium improvements from about $2.25 million down to $1.3 million, but there is a significant amount of grant monies that have come about as a result of General Assembly actions. Those need to be fully codified, need to fully wash through the budget, and then that appropriation authority will be made available to us if we're the beneficiary of it, the designee as the recipient. In one case, it is the county government, and the revenue can either be, the appropriation authority can either be moved to the board or it can reside with the county government, and then we simply enter into an MOU with them to discharge that project. So while you see a reduction in funding, there is no impact in terms of our ability to deliver the projects that were contemplated. It's just we need a little bit of time for some of these funding mechanics to play out. Lastly, in driveway and parking lot improvements, you'll see a reduction from $750,000 to $500,000. Unlike some of my other comments, that is one, again, that continues to provide us with some concern, just like with maintenance backlog. Unfortunately, and especially now after a not even that harsh of a winter, you see that many of our parking lots are not in the best shape possible, and they certainly could benefit from as much attention as we could provide them. So that funding reduction will in fact curtail our ability to undertake as many lot and driveway repaving activities or expansion activities as we had contemplated. And then finally, in conclusion, not within the Board of Education's budget, but through our very long-standing and beneficial partnership with the county, and specifically the County Department of Public Works, they are fully funding the $250,000 continued expansion of the school sidewalk construction initiative. And as we speak today, even two of those projects are underway, that benefiting Pasadena Elementary School and Benfield Elementary School, and there are many others that are in the pipeline. So this is welcome news as we continue to build out the sidewalk and biking infrastructure here in the county going forward. If you turn the page, then, so this is strictly the FY19 budget. If you turn the page to the landscape-oriented document, we'll not cover the reoccurring portion of the budget. The way you look at this is if the Board of Education's budget request, formal request, is in a black ink font, if the project was funded, but funded at a value that differed, and in some cases that could be less, some cases that could be more, if there's a differential in the funding level, it's marked in a blue ink font. And if it is fully funded at the exact amount, it is depicted in a green ink font. And if it's not recommended for funding, i.e. a 0, it's recommended in a red font. So that's the decoding way of going through this. On the first page, you'll see our recurring projects. And again, you'll see some reductions in categories, some full funding categories. I've already gone through those in detail. Not of a significant amount of near-term concern, absent my comments on the maintenance backlog reduction and the drive-in lots. If you go into the major capital projects, on the bottom section of that first page, you'll see that they are either exactly funded or funded at a differential that we're comfortable with, again, aligning with the remarks I issued earlier. If you go onto the back page, and we'll highlight now the significant differentials in that, you'll see that the first four projects are fully funded. We've already discussed Edgewater, Tyler, and Richard Henry Lee. You'll see when you get down to Crofton the dynamic that I indicated earlier. So while the appropriation authority will decrease from $54.8 million to $47.4 million, if you go to the 20 column just to the right of it, you'll see that our request for next year, which we had planned on being at $17.0 million, will increase to $24.4 million. So again, it's a mathematical wash. It does not impact. The impacts, though, do occur in the out years, and I'll go over those in detail. The recommendation that was put forward yesterday at the county executives level would have Quarterfield, Hillsmere, Rippling Woods, and Old Mill West High School. They would slip by 1 year, whereas the board would have requested that we initiate planning and design activities and early construction activities in FY20. They now slip out to FY 2021. If you continue down the page and you take a look at Mountain Road Corridor Elementary School and Old Mill Middle School South, Mountain Road Corridor Elementary School will slip out 2 years. Again, the board's budget would have had design and planning and preliminary construction activity commencing in FY 2021. As contemplated now within the county executive's budget, that would commence in FY 2023. And the remaining projects on that page then, Old Mill Middle School South, Cat North, Old Mill High School, West County Elementary School, and Old Mill Middle School North, you'll see are no longer in the planning horizon. So they simply are not in the 6-year plan. That doesn't mean the projects don't exist. They're just not in the 6-year planning horizon. And we're obligated, again, to put together a 1-year CIP and a 5 out-year exhibit. So they've been pushed out past 2024, which is the end of the formal obligatory CIP planning horizon. With that, we'll take a pause and turn it back over to you and your colleagues, Madam President.
Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you again, Madam President, and thank you for this presentation. I'll just ask for a little bit of latitude in this because I suspect as we get into the fall and discussion about CIP, we'll have probably a much more extensive conversation. But I wanted to sort of understand better, given these numbers, plus the unknown impact, I guess we'll call it now, of the bill that passed the General Assembly that changes the Board of Public Works and the IAC component and so forth. At what point will that oversight charge change so that the out-year projects have to go through the new process as opposed to what has already been initially approved? And I don't know if it's as simple as saying planning and design feasibility or if it's somewhere further down at which we have to go and re-explain our capital budget vision, or our capital program vision, I should say, to another set of stakeholders.
Sure. That new structure will be in panel July of 2018. So this budget will conclude essentially under the old algorithm. Your next CIP, the one that we'll be presenting for FY 2020, will be the capital improvement budget that will go through the new system once it's fully stood up and flushed out.
So for instance, and I'm getting a lot of questions throughout the community about what we're preliminarily calling Old Mill West, the Papa John's project. So for instance, just using that scenario, we have funded up until now, and this would not have changed, based on this proposed budget, and any changes that were made by the county executive or will be made by the county council. But Old Mill West has received $0 of funding to date, even though I know the county just acquired the property and we're going through those changes. But theoretically, could that project be at risk with this new oversight committee?
Again, it's simply too early to speculate on any of that because we really don't fully know the construct of it. I mean, that the new panel even hasn't been stood up yet, so we don't even know who they are, what the rules of the road are, et cetera. So I will tell you though that having had the pleasure of serving on the NOC Commission, they put forward 36 recommendations, Mr. Vice President, and overwhelmingly the vast majority have in fact been codified and put into statute. The intent really had to do with expediting the school construction process, eliminating a lot of the bureaucracy that was contained in the old school construction process, expediting many of the approvals so we can get through the review and approval process. It greatly expanded, I call them the tools in the toolbox, the types of procurement, the type of volume aggregation on the purchasing side, partnerships, alternative financing, public-private partnerships, et cetera. So the vast majority of the things put into place were all very purposely designed to help LEAs, to help us be able to bring projects to market quicker, to lower the cost, to give us more flexibility. I am hoping that the new interagency commission that is impaneled come July honors the spirit and intent of the entire NOT process, and that the processes that they put in place comports with that, and they continue to partner with the LEAs to help us move projects through as quickly as possible. And secondly, I would certainly hope that we in Maryland, the IAC process started back in 1971. I wasn't there for the opening, but I've been here for most of the IAC process. And local control, local board prioritization, the local knowledge in terms of what your program delivery, what type of construction materials work best in your area, what type of programs you put in place. There's always been a great amount of deference historically through that time from 71 to present to the locals. The NOT Commission strongly echoed that they wanted it to continue to be a politicized, locally driven process. And again, I would fully hope that the new interagency commission honors the spirit and intent not just of the past, but of the NOC Commission's recommendations and what was codified within statute just recently.
Thank you for that. And again, I ask certainly for the projects that remain on the out years and on our radar and our overall vision, but at the same time, I just always know when there's a substantial change like that, and we've already committed dollars or spent dollars in many cases, and some new oversight comes into play, they may start to ask questions that cause us to have to do a lot of explaining and justification. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Sure. And we'll appear before you, as we always have, in the month of September with our preliminary FY 2020 recommendation. We certainly hope and would expect that between July, when the new interagency commission is stood up, and September, by the time we appear before you, that we would have had the ability to interact with them, that they would have issued new guidance. We've been able to digest that. So I think we'll be able to brief you and be positioned to brief you in September of 2018, much better than we are this afternoon.
Ms. Corbett.
I just had a question on the 3 elementary schools whose funding was cut. My understanding is that the students at Edgewater and Tyler Heights can remain in the building. So if you are able to, say, start construction in April, then you could go ahead and start construction in April while these students are still in the building. But Richard Henry Lee students would actually have to be moved out of the building before we could really do any work. Is that true?
So yes, the way all 3 projects are contemplated is the students at Edgewater and Tyler Heights would remain on the premises while we renovated and expanded the building around them. as you well know, we've done successfully many, many, many times. But Richard Henry Lee, simply by the way it's configured and its size and lack of space on a property, those youngsters could not reside within that building, so we would have to move them off premises. So from the inception, we knew that project, we would have to relocate those students.
So with this money, we obviously can't move them off premises for September. Probably can't move them off premises over winter break either. If you're backdating the money and you're saying, oh, we can start a project in March or April, are we really going to start a project like that and move those kids in the middle of the school year, or are we going to really just wait until July?
I don't think that's been fully flushed out yet, in all due candor. Again, we've got some work we have to do with our designers and constructors. We have to talk to both school communities, bring a recommendation to the superintendent, and receive direction on that. But I think it's just preliminary right now, a little bit preliminary to say this early afternoon that definitively we are or not going to move them out effective September, December, or the following September. That being said, we need to inform the community. They deserve to know, the faculty, the parents, the staff, everybody needs to know. So we're going to try to get to that place where we can inform them as absolutely quickly as possible.
And I'll add to that. Thank you for pointing out it. As we've talked many times, we've blended these three elementary schools together in terms of talking about the capital budget and capital improvements. But when it gets right down to the work that's got to be done, Richard Henry is in a very different place, right? It's different decisions have to be made because we do have to move those students.
I'm most concerned looking at the 6-year plan, how everything is being bumped a couple of years. And I know that can change as revenues, counting and change stuff, but I would hope that everyone's in the community and would really speak out on these so that we can keep these on track. With the old mill complex that everyone is very excited about moving, some of these zeroed out, we're extending that project out by half a decade based on this. And so I hope that there will be a way in the outgoing years that we can include more so that we can keep these things on track for that 10-year plan that we all agreed and worked together on to create for our school construction. The MGT study that we, with the county council and the county executive and the school board, have all agreed is the master plan that we would follow, and we would try to complete those projects as close as we could within the decade. And so I hope that we will see increased revenues coming into the county and increased allotment to the school system so that we can get those things on track to meet that decade goal.
Sure, and as you know, the county, on the county side, there are capital debt affordability guidelines, 3 or 4 very, very specific ones, so their entire CIP has to fit within those constraints of the capital debt affordability models. The same exact thing happens at the state level as well. One of the recommendations, and I'll go back to the comments made to the Vice President from the NOC Commission, is that historically we had, coming out of the COP Commission, a $250 million funding floor on the state side. The recommendation has been to, as quickly as possible, get to a $400 million state funding floor as well. So I think as revenues increase on both the state and the county side, we hope that that would put more breathing room, more capacity into both the state's model and the county's model. And yes, the effect of that would be to hopefully help us bring some of these extended timelines back in.
Are there any other board questions or comments? Is there any public comment? So thank you all very much. Very informative. And again, I encourage everyone to go out to the county council hearings on the budget. Okay. Item 6.02 is not in my packet. Do you have it? Let me see your 6.02. It's missing from my packet. Sorry. Item 6.02 is review item systemic approaches to equitable practices, and we have a presentation, ladies.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Monique Jackson, Deputy Superintendent for Student and School Support. With me this afternoon is Dr. Maisha Gillens, Executive Director of the Office of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss some of the initiatives that we are undertaking to elevate all students, eliminate all gaps, and develop climates of acceptance and inclusion. I would like to start with some background. In 2005, the Anne Arundel County NAACP and members and community members filed a complaint with the Office for Civil Rights regarding achievement and discipline gaps. On September 7th, 2005, AACPS and the Anne Arundel County NAACP entered into a memorandum of agreement. And that MOA focused on 3 areas: academic achievement, safe and orderly environments, and community collaboration. The spirit of that 2005 agreement has continued to be carried out through the work of the Blue Ribbon Commission, our newly adopted strategic plan, the disproportionality report, the District 203 initiative on equitable practices, which includes restorative practices, the hiring of community ambassadors, and the continuation of the Equity Advisory Committee, formerly known as the OCR Committee. I would now like to turn the presentation over to Dr. Gillens to talk about some of the specifics.
Hello. Our Blue Ribbon Commission on Equity and Achievement, made up of more than 20 individuals with vast experiences dealing with the many facets surrounding achievement, opportunity, and discipline gaps both inside and outside of our school system. The Commission examined issues related to achievement and discipline gaps and made recommendations for our school system to follow to narrow disparities that exist among student groups. The Blue Ribbon Commission made 8 critical recommendations regarding equity and achievement. These recommendations manifested themselves through initiatives such as the creation of advisories at the secondary level, the superintendent's teen advisory group, and the inclusion of social and emotional learning embedded into our curriculum. We continue to create and enhance partnerships with our faith-based community and expand mentoring programs through partnerships with community groups. We also have created a leadership development plan starting from teacher leaders to building the capacity of principals. Our newly adopted strategic plan focuses on relationships, rigor, and readiness. They are the cornerstones to academic achievement, safe and orderly environments, and community collaboration. The plan's driving values, all means all, ready, set, launch, and sound stewardship further supports a systemic approach to equity. School discipline also continues to be a priority. We continue to annually review the Code of Student Conduct and are providing professional development on proactive approaches to addressing behavioral concerns. More recently, the Maryland State Department of Education has notified local school districts of its expectation for schools to submit and implement a 3-year local action plan for reducing and eliminating disproportionate impacts of school discipline. The goal of the plan, which we will submit by January, is to reduce disproportionate impacts within 1 year and eliminate them within 3 years. Our work to address discipline issues through our behavioral positive intervention supports initiatives includes the implementation of a range of restorative practices in schools. Those efforts, which are being led by the Division of Alternative Education, focus proactively on building the social emotional capacity of students by helping them learn new behaviors rather than simply punishing past behaviors. It also allows individuals to understand and acknowledge the impact of their behaviors on the larger community. We have seen positive results through this work. and the board's budget request contains a request to help us expand this effort. Our District 203 initiatives set the expectation that every AACPS school in office embraces equitable practices and provides a positive, welcoming place for all students, families, and employees to learn and grow. I'd like to give you a brief explanation of just two of the tenets of District 203. Growth mindset emphasizes the use of perseverance, grit, the process of praise, goal setting, reflection, and the power of yet. The concept that you are not failing at a task, but that you just can do something, but just not yet. Knowing the stories emphasizes making connections and building relationships to promote understanding. AACPS have been working through the lens of District 203 for the past several years. This school year, we are digging deeper into equitable practices by aligning our professional development around the research outlined in the book, Building Equity, Policies and Practices to Empower All Learners. This book offers the tools for having conversations about equity for all students. And this book also offers educators a comprehensive model for evaluating their current systems while providing a blueprint for improvement. As you can see on the taxonomy on the PowerPoint, it's organized by equity concerns and responsive practices that promote a school or school district's ability to address each of those effectively. To advance the work of building equity, each school is assigned an equity liaison. Among other duties, equity liaisons advance the work of equitable practices at their school. They assist in analyzing data by student group and take appropriate action to ensure the school improvement plan is responsive, supportive, and equitable. All equity liaisons deliver professional development on equitable practices for their staff on the 4 designated early dismissal days. My office has provided and continues to provide District 203 professional development for various central office departments and different employee groups, such as the Division of Human Resources, the Division of Curriculum and Instruction, bus drivers, secretaries, behavioral specialists, bilingual facilitators, etc. Professional development on building equity is delivered to principals each month, and schools receive an equity calendar each month that includes a wide range of resources that support equitable practices. The 4 early dismissal days the board has built into the calendar over the last several years are used exclusively to focus on eliminating the achievement gap, or ETAG. Across our schools, employees are working to recognize the importance of showing empathy and understanding of others' perspectives. Use awareness of diversity to generate ideas for supports, services, curriculum, and projects, and analyze the school environment for evidence that educating a diverse group of students is important to people who work at our schools. We begin each learning session by identifying our cultural bubble. A cultural bubble consists of those things we individually believe have the biggest impact on our lived experience. Participants use the diagram up at the top, it's called Dimensions of Identity, to really recognize what are those big things that influence our lived experience. And recognizing our cultural bubble is the first step to acknowledging our implicit bias. We engage in discussions of how our individual cultural bubble impacts how we interact with colleagues, students, and the community. This dialogue is crucial to the ongoing work of identifying implicit bias. Over the past 4 years, we have held the Unlocking Our Potential Conference for all administrators and teacher leaders. The purpose of the conference is to build capacity in the areas of leadership, curriculum instruction, community engagement, and equitable practices. We have been very fortunate to have leaders in the field of equity, such as the authors you see on the slide. These leaders have addressed our leaders in our school system to help build our capacity. The link between our schools and the communities they serve is a critical one. Our community ambassadors are essential to making that link strong. Community ambassadors are currently strategically placed in 3 high schools, Annapolis, Chesapeake, and North County. And we have plans in place to hire more ambassadors to assist schools in the future. The community ambassadors, they serve as liaisons with homes, schools, and communities. Our ambassadors provide crisis management as well as focus on improving student attendance, creating a more welcoming environment for families, and providing information and resources. As we have said many times, our equity work is a community effort. We continue to grow and foster partnerships with groups such as fraternities and sororities and the United Way of Central Maryland through a variety of programs that benefit our students both directly and indirectly. Mrs. Jackson mentioned earlier that our work in the spirit of the OCR agreement continues through the Equity Advisory Committee. This committee of school system and community representatives, which I am honored to co-chair with Mikio Manuel, routinely looks at a variety of data and puts actions in place to address a wide range of issues, from mental health to the impact of poverty and beyond. Analyzing data is critical in our commitment to elevating all students and eliminating all gaps. Each of our principals have received a data profile that's been disaggregated by student group that allows them to see their school's progress. In addition to achievement and attendance data, the profile includes results from the climate survey and a breakdown of employee diversity. These profiles drive the work of each school's school improvement plan. Within our school system, the Executive Oversight Committee works to provide supports to schools that have had difficulty meeting established indicators. The EOC provides a support network to schools in meeting their identified school improvement goals through the use of problem-solving protocols which are shared among schools. The launch of our new strategic plan also provides us with a more publicly accessible portal through which our progress can be viewed. The metrics section of the strategic plan page on our AACPS website will contain data presented in an easy-to-understand format that will also be downloadable. It is our intention to keep the site fresh and to update the data as often as possible. Our communication efforts will also include a community book study, a summer series on Tuesday nights, right here at the boardroom, addressing a variety of topics of interest to parents and the general community, and video clips on our website highlighting efforts to address achievement, opportunity, and discipline gaps. There are more potential changes on the horizon as well. We continue to discuss the creation of safe spaces in our school buildings where students in crises can find a trained adult who can assist or direct them when they need help. Dr. Arlotto has led an ongoing discussion in recent weeks about repackaging the initial days of the upcoming school year to focus on building relationships between students, as well as between students and staff, wellness, and equity. It is his belief that spending this time at the outset of the year has the potential to create bonds that will reduce many of the instances we have seen to date. AACPS and the community have many challenges to address in the areas of equity, acceptance, and inclusion. are charged to attack those challenges can be summed up, I believe, in 3 words: brave, bold, and skilled. We must be brave enough to see and understand each individual's lived experience. We must be bold enough to want to do something about what we see and understand, especially when to do so is not so popular. And we must be skilled enough to take appropriate action. In conclusion, please take a look at this graphic. I'll give you a moment. Getting from equality to equity requires us to be bold, brave, and skilled. Equality means everyone has the same bike. Equity requires that the bike is appropriate for each rider, and it allows that rider to really maximize their riding experience. So our quest, in short, is to help every single student to get that right bike or the best teaching and learning to be successful in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. With that, we'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Mr. Butcher.
Thank you. I really appreciated that presentation. It's no secret there's been a lot of issues, or there's a perception in several of the schools that there's some issues with race, things of that nature. I like what was packaged, but I'm curious on a couple of specific things. There's one thing, there's a perception, some of the things that I've heard and people have talked about, that the discipline is disproportionate, specifically focusing on some of the black students that get in trouble. What type of data do we have, without talking about any specific cases, that could highlight if that perception is actually accurate in terms of students that are being referred to the state's attorney's office for prosecution, things of that nature? Do we have any data that can highlight whether there is a disparity or not?
Good afternoon, sir. We do have data, and we constantly look at that at a district level as well as a school at an individual school level. We work through, as is in the opening of our student code of conduct, we work through cases of discipline. Some of them are, for example, altercations that are code of conduct driven, that we reference frequently as hard offenses, that are immediate consequences for a particular action. Some of the other consequences, we continue to work through some of the things that we've talked about, such as advisory, to help our students be able to negotiate relationships better. It starts in the early elementary school, where we have built that into the curriculum. So the short answer to that is yes, we do notice some discrepancies within student populations, but the answer to that, we continue to work through the systems that we do have in place. It's not perfect, but we continue to work through this systems such as curriculum, advisories, mentoring programs to help reduce those disparities.
So when we see a situation like where there is a discrepancy, maybe there's a school or an area where we're seeing a higher increase, what are the specific steps that the administration is doing to work with the principals in that school or the SROs, whoever's involved in those actual incidents, to make sure that they're having the right training?
Right, and it goes back to the individual story. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer to that question, sir, because each individual child's story is a little bit different. Sometimes students' recidivism comes into play, and it's constant. Maybe it's a referral to outside agencies. Maybe the family needs some assistance in order to help bridge the gap between behaviors that they're also seeing at home, as well as some of those things that we're seeing at school. So we do have many offices within the school system that work towards that end to assist a particular school when a child, but again, it goes down to the individual child. There are structures in place such as leadership team meetings where where teams of educators go through data about that particular child. Sometimes it's as simple as a change in schedule, for example, that they're having difficulty with negotiating a particular set of colleagues in a classroom, and sometimes something as simple as a change of schedule could assist the child.
All right, I just have a couple more questions.
Yes.
Specifically, what I'm trying to find out, I know, for instance, we just talked in our closed session about our board retreat, and that the board will be getting some implicit bias training. Can we talk specifically about administrators, students? Is implicit bias training going to become part of the curriculum for everyone involved with Anne Arundel County Public Schools, and how is that going to be rolled out?
So, and I'll let Dr. Gillens continue with that. For example, I mentioned advisory programs. Our sixth grade advisory program does include those things. So, for example, in sixth grade advisory, we have understanding differences and exploring prejudices, fairness, cultural awareness, and unintentional bias. Then in seventh grade, beyond tolerance, cliques in schools, understanding bias, and several other activities on understanding bias. And then in eighth grade, we continue with exploring stereotypes, responding to differences, and understanding differences. That answers the student piece. Then with the faculty piece, as we mentioned earlier, our principals as well as our equity liaisons are trained each month, or equity liaisons, it may be a little bit less than that, we've been using the Building Equity book, for example, on modules that will assist staff in exactly what you're talking about, that implicit
What
bias.
about the SROs or any of the security that are involved that are actually having the interaction when incidents break out in the schools?
Because the SROs are not our school system employees, they're not required to attend. Sometimes they are part of, for example, they are there during the school day, and as they're walking through the hallways and in classrooms, they are absolutely available to go into classrooms and things like that to see some of the training that we give our students. But because they are not school system employees, they are not required to attend.
I have a ton of questions, but the final one that I'm going to have.
Let me, just because you talked about SROs, as I think most people are aware, there was some legislation signed by the governor regarding school safety and security. And one of those mandates was that training for SROs, because it's done jurisdiction by jurisdiction, right? Our SROs are provided by our police department, where in St. Mary's County they're provided by the sheriff's office. And so one of the mandates that this new legislation has put forward is that SRO training will be standardized across the state. So several of us were able to participate, invite and participate in a statewide Safety and Security Council conference. Mrs. Hummer was there as well. And that was part of the discussion. So just to let you know, I think our SROs are very well trained. They're certainly invited to all of our professional development in the schools they're part of each and every day, but we only have 15 of them. Those numbers will be increasing over the next 2 years. As you know, the commitment from our county executive is to ensure that we have one in all of our high schools, and he's over the next 2 years committed to providing funds to increase the number of SROs to one in each middle school. But going back to your original question, while we invite them to our professional development, I think it is a positive move that all SROs will be following a standard protocol in terms of training.
Okay.
And I just want to add something. So as we were talking about that, I know all of us who attended that summit that day, we've received a questionnaire to give input on the SRO curriculum and what should be included, and that is certainly training on implicit bias and different things. I have no doubt that we would not be the only school system that would be making suggestions toward that be considered included in the statewide curriculum. So that is something that we can do and push for on the state level as well.
My final question is, again, I talked about the perception. That's what we've heard. I've been at events with both of you in terms of the perception that's out there. In terms of our community outreach and getting the message out specifically about what we're doing as it relates to diversity and inclusion. I saw about the partnerships. What other steps are we taking to make sure, whether it's the churches, whether it's some of the other organizations that are out there, are actually aware of this? I think the website is one of our best resources, but apparently we don't have a lot of folks that are still going there and checking as much as we would like. Diversity and inclusion, one of my favorite sayings, I can't even remember who said it, but diversity and inclusion is often about not just being asked to come to the party, but being asked to dance. And so it seems like there's some type of breakdown where we're not getting that message out about all the things that we're doing. So is there any other thoughts in terms of steps and action items that we're going to be doing the work to talk about some of these different programs?
So as we mentioned earlier, we are going to continue to utilize our web-based system to at least make sure that that information is transparent and it's out there for anyone who does visit the website to be able to access. The second thing that we're very excited about is the Tuesday Summer Series that we will invite the community members, parents, and the makeup of that session will be a short presentation on various items. Now, we haven't set the schedule because we're continuing to get stakeholder feedback, but one of those subject matters would be, for example, negotiating or navigating the student code of conduct and helping parents, an open forum, having parents ask specific questions in relationship to the student code of conduct. And then finally, we have not picked the book that we will be utilizing, but what we have found in our experience as principals is that frequently when a community comes together for a purpose, such as a book study, it helps open the dialogue, and that's really what we want to do. And so that's the third thing that we're really excited about is the book study, the community book study, choosing the appropriate book, perhaps having guest speakers, and then access for the whole county. We believe that those things will start to make a difference. Will it absolutely answer the questions? Probably not, but we believe that it will start to make a difference.
Can I add to that as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I've also been on, I call a listening and kind of sharing tour, where I have met with several lead community members to talk about the work. We also have, as we mentioned, the Equity Advisory Committee, which is consisted of school-based folks and also community folks. That's another way, and we do it every month, to communicate exactly what's going on and be very transparent in the work. So again, I'm continuing to meet with key individuals in the community to really communicate exactly what the work is. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for your work.
And to that end, we are open to suggestions as we continue this work. As I speak with Dr. Gillens, this is not just about the work of her office. This is about the work of AACPS and Anne Arundel County and its citizens, the greater Anne Arundel County and its citizens. And so as we continue to do the work, it is crucial more than ever that we work together. Because as I echo what Ms. Korbelak said, our children are watching us. And as we become their role models and their examples, we need to model working together.
Mr. Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you again for this presentation. I know I and certainly this board appreciate all of your effort and communicating what we're doing so far, and it's certainly going to be a great benefit to our community to learn more of the things that we are doing as a district. I just had a few brief questions. I heard you mention that we're doing advisories throughout middle school for diversity and inclusion. How do we measure the efficacy of the Equity Advisory Program?
So we are continuing to work through our middle school work group to develop that. Our robust advisory program started just a few years ago, and so as we continue to expand our advisory program through middle school and into high school, our middle school level educators are working through this book, helping us with advisories and helping us not only with the content, but exactly what you are talking about, measuring is what we're teaching actually getting us the results that we want? And it's hard because, you know, there's standardized tests for a lot of things, but not for how you think and feel and speak. And so we're continuing to look at other districts as we network. Dr. Gillens just joined a network of Maryland, D.C., and Northern Virginia to help get some of those metrics. We don't have specific metrics in place right now, but what we are noticing is that, for example, in our elementary schools, what we're teaching our students during the day, they're taking outside of the school. For example, at the playground, where they are beginning to use restorative circles on their own. And so that's exactly what we want to happen. And so it's hard to capture the narrative, but we're continuing to work through that.
But I can speak to that as well, as far as having been the director of school performance. The last 2 years, we did establish, the middle school group did establish a walkthrough tool, because it's not only that we've created a curriculum, but is it being delivered to fidelity? So there is a walk-through tool that was created last year as far as impact on student performance. I hear you, there's work to be done. But I would also argue that the principals were clear that they needed a tool to monitor the fidelity in which the curriculum is being implemented. That does exist, and we did that. We started that last year.
That's great. Yeah, there's always curriculum is written and curriculum is delivered.
A whole
I can
different
attest to
story.
that. So thank you very much. And you did touch on some of the work we're doing in elementary schools. Certainly global studies through the EEE program, but I'm happy to hear that through all of our elementary schools and through our universal curriculum that we're able to address topics of diversity and inclusion. Lastly, is there any work being done? We heard at the last meeting, the meeting before, about some of these new 9-week classes. Is there any work being done about developing a 9-week either global studies or cultural proficiency course for high school students?
We do have Arundel High School is piloting a 9th grade course. We don't have, because this was the initial year, we don't have our data, but we are continuing to work with Arundel High School to look at what that looks like and sounds like perhaps in other areas of the county. So more to come on that. But in reference to curriculum, you know, as a former student in Anne Arundel County Public Schools, I have been delighted to see the expansion, especially of language arts curriculum, to include works from Sharon Flake, for example, The Skin I'm In, and several other items within the language arts curriculum that afford students the opportunity to see themselves in the literature that they read. And I think that's really important, and I think it's a major kudos to our Division of Curriculum Instruction.
Yes, absolutely. Self-affirmation of their culture, that cultural affirmation from day one in the classroom for all of our students is incredibly important. And I hope to see that we start creating more robust classroom libraries with diverse authors for all of our students to have easy access to, not just on Media Day. So thank you very much for your work, and then for your presentation several weeks ago regarding your work in recruiting as well. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Butcher, I want you to know, Ms. Ortiz just texted me and said that the legislation for the new SROs, the School Safety Act, it's required in the law that implicit bias training be included in their curriculum. So it's already in there. We can reinforce it, but it's already is required by law.
I would have said that.
You
as
didn't
well.
get that text?
I guess the point that I would add is that I think that the school system is doing a lot, but we've got to get the word out there a little bit more.
Yes, sir.
We have to be people to the punch that are trying to say that they're sitting on our hands. So, we agree.
Ms. Korbelak.
Thank you for all the update. I love the community book study idea, your resident English teacher. But I'm talking, my questions were about the student side. It's really hard for students to build relationships with people outside their cultural bubble if their school is a bubble. What can we do to create those opportunities to build those relationships across schools if their school is a little bit of a demographic bubble?
Thank you very much for asking that question. It's great to have our superintendent's teen advisory for so many reasons, and one of those reasons is just what you mentioned. It actually has come up several times, and they are working with Ms. Pellegrin to come up with ways to help extend their knowledge of other areas. One student mentioned, she said, I had no idea where your school was even located. And so we're working through our students because we would like for that to be a student-led effort. And so we're working through our students to begin figuring out ways to, at the very least, share the wonderful ideas and experiences that they've had. For example, Meade held a summit there that many students attended throughout the county, and it was very successful. And so to continue to have different schools host the summit, we also have bounced around the idea of teen advisory being held at different schools throughout the county so that our students get an idea that our county is so rich, it's so diverse, and it's a wonderful place not only to raise your family, but to learn. And so
I would like to also respond to that. That's okay. And that's also been a challenge even for my office to have those conversations in which schools appear on the surface level to be in the same cultural bubble, right? But we're so complex individually. So we have definitely had conversations because there's some schools that, I shouldn't say schools, there are some communities that may feel like this work is not for, we don't need this. But again, we're so complex. If you look at the dimensions of identity, it isn't just race. It's beyond, it's more than that. We're more complex than that. So really having that conversation about how we are different, and it's a beautiful thing to be different, even within that school that may appear homogeneous. Mm-hmm.
The only other thing I wanted to suggest when we're picking the nights for the Tuesday evening of the month, I know the Caucus of African American Leaders often meets on Tuesday evenings. I don't know if they meet throughout the summer, but they seem to pick the same evening, or we've picked the same evening as our equity advisory meetings, so they're not able to come to both. So I would love to see those groups together. Thanks.
Are there any other board questions or comments? I want to thank you as well. I think that gives us a very comprehensive picture of the many different initiatives that are going on every day. So now,
and I just want to thank you for all of your work, your dedication, your caring and love for the kids and the staff and growing, and the fact that you are, the two of you are bold, brave, and incredibly skilled. So thank you.
So now we'll have any public comment. I do have one card. Kevin Vasquez.
Hi there. My name is Kevin Vasquez. I'm the leader of the Axiom Club, Chesapeake High School. And I didn't know what this agenda item was actually going to consist of until I saw the presentation, so forgive me if I misspeak. I don't have any notes. The point I wanted to make about that whole presentation is if you actually want to fix this equity problem that you're talking about, if you want a real solution, you won't just form these committees. You won't form separate groups of committees among the students. You will ask all the students. You will take this notepad right here and sit in front of the entire student body and ask them, what can we do to fix equity in schools? Ask your students. They're a huge resource. They're very helpful. A lot of them have good ideas. That's all I have to say.
All right. Is there any other public comments? And I also want to share this this video and presentation will be put online as a separate video broken out, so you don't have to watch the whole 5-hour board meeting, and you can see this portion of it, and parents will be notified through Parent Connect that it is available for them to watch, so that all of our parents can see all the many rich and innovative things that we are trying to do as we continue to celebrate our kids and close the equity gaps. So thank y'all again for that. And item 6.03 is a review item, awarding of contracts. Do I have any board questions or comments on this item? Okay. Oh, Ms. Nally.
did not earlier, as when Mr. Gilliland was speaking about Mr. Bebo, I failed to also recognize a very long time good friend who is retiring, Karen Bailey, from Piney Orchard, an exceptional school leader. She will be greatly missed. I knew Karen as a little girl because I was trained by her mother. Mary Ellen Street was my principal when I started early in this county, and Mrs. Street was the reason I continued and became a school administrator and taught with her, and watched her little girl grow up to be such a successful administrator and wonderful as her mom. So our system will really miss Karen. Thanks.
So that is the end of our meeting. The next general board meeting will be held Wednesday, May 16th at 7 p.m. The next policy meeting is next Wednesday, May 9th at 1 p.m. The next budget committee meeting is Wednesday, May 16th at 5 p.m. Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the board go into closed session to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to the negotiations.
So moved. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.